important for trade, we are at 70%. The city engineers, again, we are not doing so well. We are at 50%. And the city physical planner at 30%. I beg to lay on table the statement summary of critical posts of local governments as at August 2025.
Please lay.
Right Honourable Speaker, the Ministry shall continue engaging Minister of Public Service and Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development to improve the wage bill of all local governments. Last week, the local government negotiation team, we have, in accordance with the Constitution, the conditional grants are negotiated between the local governments and the sector ministries. And that was done last week, and there was negotiation with public service. We are aiming at carrying out realistic wage analysis for these critical posts so that we have substantive officers for the most critical posts to 100%. Furthermore, I'd like to observe that Ministry of Public Service has put in place measures to expedite approval of requests by local governments to recruit and to fill the district service commissions. The Public Service Commission is expediting the requests to appoint the district service commission members. I think this should help us to result in less delays in the recruitment of staff. Issue number 5 was road equipment for cities and municipalities. The district urban community access roads are a responsibility of the local governments under decentralization. So each level has its own unique type of road for which it is responsible. Government has provided road equipment to all the districts, although some are reported to be in poor condition, and 13 of the districts got partial units. Government undertakes to procure a full set of road equipment units for all the cities, and some critical equipment for municipalities next financial year. When I talk of the full set, I mean a grader, a wheel loader, a roller, a bowser, bump truck tipper, and pickup. And we shall do that. Issue number 6 was the road fund for town councils and sub-counties. The local governments, through the associations, pointed out that we have not provided road fund for the newly created town councils. And I think this is right. But as pointed out, the local governments have been negotiating with the Minister of Works on this. And it's not good because inadequate funds for local governments affects the mobility of the citizens in the rural areas especially, and affects the implementation of PDM. So I'd like to confirm that Minister of Works, I've talked to my colleague, Minister of Works and Transport is committed to provide funds through the budget for road maintenance for all town councils and sub-counties in the next financial year. This is their undertaking. I don't know whether the minister is here, if he could respond to that. Why not now? But that would require perhaps a supplementary budget. Issue number 7, very important as well, the issue of physical planning grant. Right Honourable Speaker, this comes especially from the urban authorities. Uganda is one of the countries with a high rate of urbanization. Our projection is at about 5.3% per annum. Indeed, colleagues, you know that when you leave home, you go back after a year or two, you'll find the growth centers in the rural areas have already grown into trading centers. It is important, therefore, that we plan for this urban growth so as to avoid slums and other pitfalls of poor or failure to plan. Honourable colleagues, in the last 2 financial years, government has been providing 2 billion shillings in totality for physical planning for all the urban councils. And we've only been able to cover 40 urban councils. I'd like to give relief to the urban authorities and to honourable colleagues. I personally discussed this matter with His Excellency the President last Monday, not this one, the last week. And he directed that we increase this provision substantially so as to cover all cities, municipalities, and town councils. The President is interested in having modern, well-planned, and attractive cities and towns. And his instruction is to budget for shillings 2 billion for each city. For physical planning, shillings 300 million for municipal councils and shillings 50 million for town councils. We hope this will lead to better, livable and attractive towns. We shall work as Minister of Local Government with the Ministry in charge of Lands, Housing, Urban Development and Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development to put in place measures to actualize the vision of His Excellency the President of a well-planned country. We call on the local governments. This kind of relief should result in better physical planning of our towns. So strengthen our resolves, colleagues in local government, so that we put our towns to good standards. As ministry is affected, we shall strengthen our capacity for supervision and monitoring of this undertaking. Issue number 8, centralization of local government revenue. Right Honorable Speaker and Honorable colleagues, you will recall that this Parliament made a resolution that the local government own source revenue should be retained by them instead of being sent to the consolidated fund and they wait for a month or 2 or 3 and then it is sent back. The local government associations have complained against this practice. We as the ministry, we are at par with Parliament and the local government associations. We totally think that local governments are able to manage their local revenues. Then they should be able to utilize it, account for it, and give the necessary services to the people. So we continue to engage the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development on this matter, so that the local governments are allowed to retain their local revenue. I've heard that it is the Public Finance Management Act which brings this about, but Right Honorable Speaker, my team has examined the Public Finance Management Act. Allow me to quote 2 provisions which are critical to this. Section 27(3) of the PFMA states, a vote, state enterprise, or a public corporation shall retain revenue collected or received where the revenue is in form of levies, licenses, fees, or fines, and the vote, state enterprise, or public corporation is authorized through appropriation, not application, through appropriation by Parliament to retain the revenue. Moreover, Section 28(1) of the PFMA, which provides that all revenue or other money raised or received for the purpose of the government shall be paid into and shall form part of the consolidated fund. Honorable colleagues, this does not apply to all votes, especially local governments, because under the interpretation clause in the PFMA, government refers to central government. So local governments are saying, Honorable Minister of Finance, whichever instrument you used, we're ready to engage with you so that we see what justification money has to be moved from Kisoro. It comes here, we look at it, and then we send it back after 2-3 months. Meantime, people are complaining of garbage. Meantime, the councillors are not yet paid. And then it has caused us a little bit of friction between the local governments because there is a sharing arrangement for local revenue. Now, when the sub-counties collect their revenue and it comes to the center, when it is moved from central government back to the districts, some districts keep quiet and they use the money. And the sub-counties down there never know that this money has come. So to us, we don't yet find any justification under decentralization by devolution to make an enterprise which has the powers under the Constitution to collect revenue, to appropriate and to move its supplementary budget. To bring the money here, you look at it, then after 3-4 months, you send it back. Maybe one time they may ask for an interest for those 2-3 months. Item number 9 was regular elections of LOC1 and LOC2. The local government associations petitioned you, Right Honorable Speaker, because we've been extending the term of office of the LOCs. And they're pointing out this is not good. These LOCs have a term which they agree on with the population during voting, so we should abide by it. The term of office of the administrative units, when I talk of administrative unit, I mean LOC1 and LOC2. they are not local government, we call them administrative units, has been extended in line with the Local Government Council's Regulation 12D. The reason has been mainly the lack of funds to conduct the elections. In order to solve this matter once and for all, government has harmonized elections of the local councils with the general elections and elections of local governments, with the effect from next election 2026. The budget for elections of the local governments is part of the Electoral Commission general budget for the next elections. So we are saying we are no longer going to have another election mid-term of LOCs. After the elections of the president, the members of parliament, the LOC 5, the LOC 3, the Electoral Commission will continue with the elections of LOC 1 and LOC 2. The final issue was ULGA UAAU subvention. Right Honorable Speaker, government appreciates the work done by the local governments in keeping decentralization on track through the associations. Now they have been complaining because there are budget cuts. We do, through the Ministry of Local Government, give what we call a subvention to ULGA and to UAAU. The Ministry has been providing shilling 300 million to cover these associations. That is 200 million to ULGA and 100 million to UAAU. However, indeed, they are right. For example, last year, this was cut to only 60 million because it is categorized as other in the budget. So it is susceptible to budget cuts. So we plan to double this amount to 600 million next financial year. And we're going to discuss it with the Minister of Finance to agree, because these associations help us a lot as government. We need them. We have also strongly advised the associations of local government to mobilize their members to pay their subscriptions on time, because the members' own support and ownership is the bedrock for survival of any association. But we're also going to change the categorization in the budget to move it from other to give it its own standalone budget line, so that it's not seen as money which is available for budget cutting. In conclusion, Right Honorable Speaker and Honorable colleagues, would like to take note of the request of the local governments through the associations to have a meeting with His Excellency the President. They made this request to you, Right Honorable Speaker. I've discussed this matter with His Excellency the President. He is the patron of ULGA. He's the key proponent and defender of devolution. And I can confirm to your honorable colleagues, His Excellency the President will meet the district chairpersons and mayors soon. We shall communicate the actual date and venue to the local governments. We're just waiting for the indication of the date and venue from the Principal Private Secretary of the President, but he's going to meet them. Much as the local governments in their opening statement decried what they called deteriorating quality of service delivered at the local government level across the country, I wish to correct this impression. The annual assessment of local governments by the Office of the Prime Minister and other bodies shows a tremendous improvement in services, which is attributed to government programs which are funded under appropriation by Parliament and are implemented by the local governments. Programs like UGIFT, USMID, PDM, EMIOGA, SAGE, and others, they have made a critical improvement. You look at PDM itself, since we started, we were just, I think we're about 40% households in subsistence. As we speak now, the UBOS statistics show we have moved down to 33%. And this is implemented through the local government structures. So the local governments have also stepped up collection and administration of their own revenues. Right Honorable Speaker, whereas the urban authorities in 2021-22 collected 29 billion, last financial year collected 51.3 billion. The districts generally have moved, they are now towards 300 billion. And this is because of digitization, but also more active understanding that they need their own local revenue. So for me, the situation is promising. Our task ahead is to deepen decentralization, to defend it and not to weaken it. This is because it is a key policy of government for service delivery, for wealth creation, and for mobilization of the communities. I beg to present this statement to you, Right Honourable Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Minister, for the response and action points. And when you hear the local government team saying deteriorating service delivery, you look at what you've just talked about, the human resource. In most of these districts you go, classes are empty, there are no teachers. The hospitals, the hospitals don't have medics. So they are right to say that there's a deteriorating service delivery. The roads are in poor condition because they don't have equipment. Honorable Minister, what these local government people are saying is an eye-opener for us. It helps us to plan. We should not sugarcoat it and say that everything is okay because we have PDM and whichever. But for us to reach to the end user of PDM, the road should be worked on. We need the road to be worked on. How do we collect that money then if these people do not have the workers to do that? So I think these people have a point which we must handle. We must resolve it. Honourable members, you've heard. But also on the issue of the monies that are collected, we need to appreciate that when you look at Article 176 of the Constitution, that's where it talks about the local government system. However, when you look at Article 191 of the Constitution, the power to levy and appropriate taxes is on Parliament, and it gives powers to local governments to collect money, taxes, levies. However, Parliament also enacted a law, that is the Public Finance Management Act, which now controls on how that money is collected and used and how the money should come to the consolidated account. Maybe one thing that we should request is when these districts collect money and they budget for that money, the money should be sent to them to be used early enough, not sending the money at the end of the financial year and the money bounces back. Yes, members, you've had a report. Omara, I'm going to start with that first. Be brief, because everybody must give. Can I first, Mr. Mara, Honorable Mara, before you speak, can I hear from local government? It will help us.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, I would like to appreciate the Honourable Minister for addressing the issues that concerned. But the major issues, Right Honourable Speaker, for example, on the road equipment, when we traverse all the districts in this country, the major concern of the districts are on road equipments. Most of the equipments that were supplied, many of them work for less than 1 year. They are all grounded. And many of the districts, they cannot afford to repair those equipments when they are spoiled. Right Honourable Speaker, looking at the procedures of borrowing the equipment, we have regional offices. We have one in Gulu, Barara, Bali, Soroti, but those regional offices, wherever the districts move to borrow the equipment, they don't supply them, and we discovered that many of them are giving those railroad equipment for hire. They are hiring those equipment, in fact, they are working money instead of helping the government offices. Right Honourable Speaker, the minister needs to be very serious.
You're saying the regional offices hire to districts?
No, regional offices, some of them hire to local contractors.
To local contractors.
Exactly. So the problem is quite huge. Right Honourable Speaker, on the payment of our local leaders, This is very serious concern, Honorable Speaker.
That is going to be sorted out.
Exactly.
We are going to budget for that money. Effective July, these people will be getting sufficient amounts.
Thank you. Finally, Honorable Speaker, on the centralization of local revenue, this is another problem. We have discovered, Honorable Speaker, that many of the districts, the local councils were not sitting. Because wherever the district collects local revenue, they send to the central government. And for money to go back from central government to local government is a tug of war. The accounting officers normally...
What is your suggestion? I want whoever is bringing an issue should be able to give a way forward. What is your suggestion? Now that you enacted a law on the Public Finance Management Act?
Honorable Speaker, our suggestion is let the local government collect local revenue and manage. Let them submit in the accountability of the money they collect.
How do you now reconcile it with the Public Finance Management Act? I want us to speak as legislators. Okay? You enacted a law. You enacted a law which is section 27(3)(a) of the Public Finance Management Act. You get it, eh? Then 28(1). How do we cure that? The only way you can cure is to bring an amendment.
Exactly, yes, yes.
You get it, eh?
Exactly.
You will not continue lamenting in this house when you know the power. You are the ones who created this, and the power to remove this is still in you.
Right, Honorable Speaker, I recall Honorable Betty raised this concern, and she brought it as a motion on the floor of this Parliament. And Parliament resolved...
Does a motion amend an act of Parliament?
No.
Thank you.
Right, Honorable Speaker, as you guided, you need to bring it on the floor of Parliament, and we do the amendment. Otherwise, what the Honorable Minister has raised is very serious concern, and I pray that government should take into consideration.
Honorable Nzima, just a minute. Let me hear from Honorable Nzima.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to make comment on 4 areas. One of the areas is...
I thought you were reacting to what he was saying. As public service, okay. Okay, it's okay.
Okay, I just wanted to give my submission. I thought you had
finished
it. Okay, please.
And I'm giving each of you 2 minutes.
On the issue of employment, you have rightly mentioned that whatever the minister concentrated on and rated as 70% is the core head of departments who are seated at the district headquarters. But when you go to health sector
in ACs.
Yes, who are mostly maybe, just as he had said, principal human resource officers, DHOs, what. But when you go to these healthy units, you find that the human resource is lacking. I'm a member of Park local government. Most of the districts, their rating for teachers and health workers are below 50. I was talking to one of the persons who called me from Herua Health Center. He was telling me the whole health unit, grade 3, had only 2 midwives. One was granted the study leave, the other one was granted the maternity leave. All the women who come for delivery are just referred because there's nobody who is to attend to them. So I think we need to pay attention to this. In the education sector, many of the schools do not have even teachers up to 6 or 7, no. Some of them have 5, 3, and the rest. There was a school where they were circulating that all the children failed. And in that school, I managed to go. There were only 4 teachers, including the head teacher. And these ones are supposed to teach class of 7, children of 7 classes, from P1 to P7. So the issue of human resource in health sector and education, we should look into it. And then 2, the minister made a statement here that all the town councils are going to be given road fund. But we are aware that some of these town councils and even sub-counties are still sharing money with their mother sub-counties. For example, I have K sub-county where Lobe Town Council was created and the Arilo. These ones are still relying on money given to K as their mother sub-county. Now, if we are saying here that Ministry of Works is going to give money to all these other sub-counties and town councils, and yet these town councils do not have IPF, their integrative planning figures, as a separate. How are we going to channel this? The best I knew was that they were giving 50 million for this new town council.
Thank you. Honorable members, even as we discuss this, I'll want the Public Service and Local Government Committee to go and look at these issues that are on the ground, to harmonize what the petition is raising vis-a-vis what the minister's response is. I also have a report from the shadow from opposition, and this will form the budget framework paper. If we are saying that we need 30 million for training, then it should come out from the committee as a recommendation to form what should be put in the budget framework paper for us to consider it in 2026-2027 budget.
Thank you so much, Right Honourable Speaker, for giving me the opportunity. I want to thank the Minister for his report, and I want to respond to 3 areas. One, on the issue of centralization of government revenue. Right Honourable Speaker, this was done before the provision in the Public Finance Management Act was instituted, and it was discovered that most of the local governments were understating revenue in their budget. So when the matter was centralized, immediately the amount of the money increased. So the issue is not so much about...
They were under-declaring.
They were under-declaring revenue.
Okay.
So when this matter was centralized, because we only have one treasury.
Honorable Gwang has something? Information.
Before
we get the information, I want these kids to leave. We have in the public gallery this afternoon pupils from Alpha Nursery and Primary School, Kapchora. Kapchora, welcome. They are represented by Honorable Cheptori's Sam and Honorable Chemutai Phyllis and Honorable William Chemonges and Honorable Adid. You're welcome. Thank you for coming all the way from Kapchora. Join me in welcoming them. Thank you so much. Thank you. Then we have students from pupils and teachers from Dr. Ambrose Soli Memorial Primary School, Agago. They are represented by Honorable Akelo Beatrice Okori and Honorable Lagen David and Honorable Okot Amos. You're most welcome. Thank you for coming. Thank you so much. Honorable Gwang, we are on debate. Come on.
Madam Speaker, I just wanted to give some information to my colleague.
Honorable Okot Amos is the one representing them.
Thank you, the Right Honourable Speaker. You know, we are in a very hectic and hot period. And if my people who are coming from Kalango, they have reached here, and then to hear that they are being represented by Agago County, not Agago North County, who is so-called John Amos, it may cause me a problem. However, I want to welcome them all to the Parliament of Uganda. You're most welcome. Madam Speaker, for the record also, they traveled a very long route because of the roads. The roads in Agago to reach Kalango is not easy. We have talked about it here, and these children here, if the ministry can take a step to work on the roads, I think you are going to save them
Thank you.
and all of us.
Thank you. We are
However,
going-
you are most welcome, our children. God
We-
bless you.
Children, we are going to work on the roads for you. You have very good leaders who are speaking for you. Go and tell your parents to vote for them. Thank you. Honorable Guang.
Madam Speaker, I wanted to give information to my colleague and to the House. And I want to refer to Mbale City. I thank the President for appointing me to work in the Office of the President and Economic Monitoring. And if there's anyone who understands what happens in local government, I am here. Madam Speaker, I appreciate the report of my honorable colleague, the Minister of Local Government. But the question of us wanting to amend the Public Finance Management Act is one I would really want to implore Parliament to be cautious. Let me give an example. The government of Uganda,
Honorable Guang, Honorable Guang, we have not said we are going to amend.
Thank you so much.
It is a process.
Thank you so much.
It's not something just you don't dream. There is an intention why that clause was put there.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. There was a project under African Development Bank for the construction of these markets. I can quote the one of Mbale City. That market, government spent almost about 27 billion Uganda shillings. But according to the budget of Mbale City, in a whole year, they were only declaring 12 million. The whole year, 12 million. The whole year. After I carried out an inspection, His Worship the Mayor, whom I love so much, a progressive leader, wrote back to me after my intervention that within 1 month they had collected almost about 67 million. So where is the problem? There's a problem of corruption, but also there's a problem of an undeclaring revenue to the central government, deliberately, because this was done by technical people, whom I want to confirm. The municipal authority, then city authorities know them very well, but I thank God I'm out of it, and I really want to pray that I don't go back to it. So my brother, that's a good information.
Let people present.
Let me first finish. Yes, so Madam Speaker and honorable members, I was just saying that the issue is under declaration by local government authorities, so it's good that we centralize tax collection. I think the only issue which we must look at is the funding of local government. In the past, Right Honorable Speaker, the local government used to receive up to 15% of our total budget annually. But now it has dropped down to 7%. So the honorable members need to look at more of the funding of local government than centralizing of the local government revenue to the districts. The other issue, Right Honorable Speaker, is on road equipments. I think the recommendation for the cities and municipalities are okay. But Honorable Minister, the districts which have received equipments have since lost most of those equipments. As Honorable colleague on the other side said, that the regional government or the regional centers for road rehabilitation is not being helpful to the local authorities. So what we need is to look afresh. There should be an inter-ministerial action really to support local government. Here it means the Minister of Works, the Minister of Finance, and the Minister of Local Government, to make sure that during the budget process, we provide sufficient money to the local authorities, especially for the repairs of the equipments. Most of these equipments have since collapsed, and we are relying so much on the regional centers for support, which is not forthcoming. So all this issue of road equipments must be looked at carefully across the board for more funding. And finally, Right Honorable Speaker, is on staff recruitment. In many of the districts, Right Honorable
Honorable Minister, you find even in districts, there is some kind of negligence. if just one tire gets spoiled in a vehicle or in an equipment, it is left there for 2 years, and you know there is wear and tear. The vehicles are left there, nothing is done. At the end of the day, you say you don't have equipment. So I don't know how people handle government assets. Yes, youth.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to be guided on interpretation of our own act. I have not read from the primary source, but when I read the statement from the minister, he seems to argue, basing on interpretation, that the current PFMA Act, as it stands, is pro-retention of revenues at local government level. He goes ahead to quote 27(3)(a) and 28, which categorizes government as central government, with the hindsight that our constitution, if my memory serves me well, 163, says local governments are autonomous bodies with powers to appropriate. Right Honorable Speaker, I beg that I be guided. How do we interpret this act of our own?
Which article?
If my memory serves me very well, Article 163.
That's not correct.
I don't know if it is 173, I think. 173. So I beg to be guided how this House can interpret our own act, because we might rush to amendment and yet the problem was foreseen and solved. Moving from
You see, when you look at Article 191,
yes,
the local government shall have powers to levy, charge or collect and appropriate fees and taxes in accordance with any law enacted by Parliament by virtue of Article 152 of the Constitution. That is now the Public Finance Management Act, which is now enacted by Parliament. Then it goes, the fees and taxes to be levied, charged or collected and appropriated under Clause 1 of this article shall consist of rent, rates, royalties, stamp duties, fees on registration and licensing, and any other fees and taxes that Parliament may prescribe.
Honorable Speaker, I beg your indulgence. So when we read from the primary act of PFMA, what does it say exactly on the issue of retention? Because I see the minister quoting it in his statement.
Honorable Minister of Finance, the owner of Public Finance Management Act, is not in agreement with the Minister of Local.
Madam, thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Madam Speaker, I was here in 2015 with Honorable Mageza and the others when this law was enacted. And what was the spirit? The spirit was what Honorable Mara said, that many local governments were understating revenue. And to address this problem, we said all revenues of government must go to the consolidated fund. And local governments are not in exception. They collect revenue for and on behalf of government. Madam Speaker, it is not true that when these monies are collected, we take a lot of time to send it back. We run a treasury single account, Madam Speaker. No. Later. We run a single treasury account. To access monies from the consolidated fund, you must go through this system. As long as you have a budget, when these revenues come, you automatically get them within the period under which it is collected. So what I want to encourage, and what we always encourage, accounting officers in local governments should not understate their budgets. If they understate, it means to access these monies, we must
switch on.
We must go, hold on. We must go through the supplementary process. I remember the case of Omoro district in Acholi sub-region. At one time, they had drastically understated their revenue, and they were failing to operate. So when they brought the matter to our attention, we advised them, even Guru City, we advised them, they corrected their mistakes. Now, the revenues they collect, they are getting it timely. So I want to appeal to colleagues that I know it is not good to, this is a report of government, but the report did not talk about corruption in local governments. And yes, you want to clarify on corruption?
We did. Honorable Minister, thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Just following from what Honorable Edison raised, the clarification we are seeking, from the statement of the Honorable Minister, Local Government, he indicated that this provision of the PFMA, Section 27(3), is saying all these revenues collected shall make part of the consolidated fund, collected by government. In the definition, in the interpretation section of the PFMA, government refers to central government agencies, and it excludes local governments. That is the clarification we are seeking from you as the Minister of Finance, whether the revenues we collect from the local governments that do not form part of government envisaged in the PFMA should also go to the consolidated fund. That's the clarification we need.
I think also somewhere, it is long ago, we can refer from our system. I think somewhere we said that in terms of managing public finances, the Public Finance Management Act supersedes all other laws. I remember we talked about it somewhere. Yes, it is there. Therefore, for me, my guiding principle is the Public Finance Management Act, which defines for me revenues of government and how they are spent. You cannot access this money without going through the consolidated fund. And to access money from the consolidated fund, you must be part of the Treasury single account.
Honorable Speaker, but we are quoting the same
Honorable
act.
members, honorable members, all what you're speaking about rotates around money. Money. If we had sufficient funding for local governments, we would not have this topic here. When we look at our national budget, Honorable Minister, you are the one who brings the budget here. Of course, it is an executive function. When you look at our national budget, the local government takes only 9.5%. If you stood firm as a house and said we want money to be increased for local government, we would not be talking here. So let's stand firm and say, let's increase money for local government. All these issues will be resolved. We will not have a debate in this house. You want to say something? No, I'm still on funding. On funding.
I think you're right, Honorable Speaker. You've made a point that we wanted to hear all along. I've been with local government for 30 years. As a statistician in a district, as a staff in the ministry, as a chair of the parliamentary committee for local government, now as a minister. I can tell you at some time, I think around 2010 or a little before that, we had reached 30% of the national budget going to the local governments. We had actually reached 34%. Right, Honorable Speaker, somewhere we lost the track. And we went down to 26, then to 18. Now you are right, it is 9%. That is the key problem, colleagues. You cannot decentralize 80% of the responsibilities to districts and you give them only 10%. It doesn't make sense. I'm a minister, certainly I would love to have more money in the ministry, but I think if we are going to move this country,
actually that money is not in your ministry. It goes down to the local people. You're only overseeing.
You're just an overseer, yes. We are just monitors, but the people doing the roads, doing the schools, I could read you a section here showing local governments which have gone an extent of buying their own grader, you can imagine. Buying their own trucks, simply because we are not doing it as government. So, my proposal, Right Honorable Speaker, because we could debate this issue of PFMA for quite a long time, and I would challenge anybody, go to the interpretation clause of the PFMA. Government means central government. That is section 20. When we say that this PFMA is important, it cannot be more important than the Constitution. The Constitution gives local governments the powers to collect, to appropriate, to pass their own supplementary budgets. Why do we allow ourselves to go wrong and then at the end of the day we complain that things are not working? So my proposal, colleagues, in the next year, 26, 27, we must see an increase in the money going to the local governments to at least 15%, the following year to 20%, the next year to 30%. Then we can sit and say, Mr. Local Government, what are you doing?
And Honorable Minister, you'll be guided under Article 176D and E. When you're making that increment of the money, you're guided by the Constitution. So let's make sure that our local governments are well facilitated. So I expect the committee to bring me that report that will form the budget framework paper for local governments. Next item. Honorable members, we've already got a solution to this. Next item.
Item 4.2 of the order paper, statement by Minister on the cause of the brownish cloud, foul odor and oily film and white cream on Lake Bunyonyi and proposed actions.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Thank you for allowing me to present this statement on the cause of the brownish cloud for odor and oil films and wild creams on Lake Bunyonyi and the proposed actions. Right Honorable Speaker, this brief has been prepared to update you and honorable colleagues, honorable members of Parliament, on the causes of the brownish cloud for odor, oil films, and white cream on Lake Bunyonyi and proposed actions. Right Honorable Speaker, as you are aware, over the last few weeks, waters of Lake Bunyonyi have suddenly turned brownish and began emitting a strong foul odor with an oil film and white cream floating on the water. In the response, the Ministry of Water and Environment, working with its agencies, undertook a rapid assessment to get an understanding of the causes of the problem and actions to be taken to address the problem. Right Honourable Speaker and colleagues, these are the considered causes as of now. One, Right Honourable Speaker, lakes often undergo a natural process of water turnover, where the deeper, colder water mixes with the warmer water at the surface, leading to increased turbidity. This is often caused by heavy rainfall events that led to sudden temperature variations. The increased temperatures in the dry season and heavy intense rains in the wet season increase the frequency of lake turnover, not only in Bunyonyi but also in other lake systems in Uganda. Number two, the lake's location in the valley with the steep slopes makes it vulnerable to runoff from agricultural farms and numerous settlements in the surrounding bare hills. Stone quarrying around the lake, as well as the ongoing iron ore mining within the catchment of the lake, could also be contributing to the siltation of the lake and the brown color. This is exacerbated by the degraded lines of the lake, which result in the direct surface runoff entering the water body. This contributes significantly to the siltation of the lake and the resultant brown color of the lake. Another one is poor waste management from the market, car washing bays, and other establishments around the lake is also contributing to a decline in water quality, resulting in foul odors, oil fumes, and white cream on the lake. Water quality measurements reveals that oxygen concentrations in the lake are low and pose serious threat to the lake's ecosystem and its potential as a source of safe water. The current brown color of the water all over the lake, which has lasted for about 3 weeks, could be due to the mixing of sediments that have settled at the bottoms of the lake, with those coming into the lake from the surrounding hills due to runoff. The brown color, Right Honourable Speaker, observed all over the lake implies that dissolved organic matter in the water has reached a critical level. Right Honourable Speaker and colleagues, these are the proposed measures we are considering as of now. According to our regulations, the Ministry of Water and Environment has undertaken regular assessment and inspection to ensure compliance around the lakes. Another one, the Ministry of Water and Environment has sensitized the local communities on poor waste disposal and the danger of farming near the lake. Equally, they are being empowered to be the steward of the lake's environment. The third one, given the high turbidity and color As of now, National Water is already undertaking improvements in their technology for treatment of the lake water. The filtration and chlorination treatment process is being enhanced to ensure that the final water meets the required standards. The fourth one, we have scaled up the protection of catchment around the lake to prevent soil erosion and agricultural runoff into the lake.
Why don't you allow the minister to finish, then you can seek a clarification.
The action will include, among others, promotion of sustainable farming practices, establishment of bench terraces, construction of soil and water harvesting structures, and the tree planting, among other initiatives. Number E, we shall provide alternative sources of income to the upstream communities to give them initiatives for the protection of the catchment. We shall also collaborate with the local governments and the other stakeholders to establish proper sanitation and waste management facilities at the Harutindo Landing Center Market to prevent direct discharge of the waste into the lake. Right Honorable Speaker and Honorable colleagues, by implementing the above measures, the ecological balance of Lake Bunyonyi shall be restored, thus ensuring its sustainability for both aquatic life and the local community. Right Honorable Speaker, we shall continue monitoring and carrying out further scientific research on Lake Bunyonyi so as to give a comprehensive report to this Parliament at the end of this month.
Thank you.
As I talk now, Right Honorable Speaker, the situation on the ground is encouraging. It is encouraging. The water is better now. It is changing to its normal.
Thank you.
I beg to submit, Right Honorable Speaker.
Love.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I would like to thank the Minister for attempting to give this report on the challenges that are on Lake Munyonyo. But Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, it is defeatist in the last paragraph when she states that they are yet to come back to the House with a comprehensive report. And I would seek your indulgence to allow the line minister of Water and Environment, shadow minister of Water and Environment, to also compile a report on the same before it could receive the views of the members.
And then we shall debate both reports.
On both reports.
Thank you. I think that's okay. Yes, Dr. Bedi. A problem for you just enter in and now and you start clarification, motion, what? People have been here.
Right Honorable Speaker, I have listened to this report and I
have already made a ruling to that effect.
Yes, but it is, I'm seeking a clarification.
Honorable.
Right Honorable Speaker, water is a science. The minister cannot.
Dr. Bedi.
The minister cannot.
Dr. Bedi.
People in the ministry.
Dr. Bedi. Dr. Bedi, it is in our own wise ruling that we have said, let's have an alternative statement from this side, and we'll look at it. We'll debate the report.
Procedure.
Honorable members, we'll debate that report after we have received from the alternative government a report on the same. Yes. Yes, Sarah.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, yesterday in the news, there was a public outcry from the people within Kabarole district who said their water had actually turned green. Whether they cook beans, it is green. Whether they cook meat, it turns green. So, Right Honorable Speaker, I wanted to simply suggest that the minister equally takes interest in that matter so that she can report to this House at once.
Honorable
Thank you,
members,
Right Honorable Speaker.
Honorable members, first of all, you did not raise that issue on the floor. It is us who, as the minister, to bring a statement on what is happening with the water. The water is turning green, the water is turning this. That's why she has brought that statement. But because we want both sides to get a statement so that we look at it. But what Honorable Sarah is raising, don't interest yourself only on Bunyonyi. Now, you're looking at outside the whole, the whole country. Look at water naturally. Because what Dr. Bed is saying, water is life. Because if somebody is going to drink that water is contaminated. And we must handle it as fast as possible. I expect a report from opposition on Thursday, and we'll debate this on Thursday.
Much obliged, Right Honorable
Thank you.
Speaker.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. I am moving this motion under Rule 63. Rule 63 provides, and I want to read, a member may move an adjournment motion for the purpose of discussing a definite matter of urgent public importance. Madam Speaker, the motion I am moving, I raised here last week the issue of the abduction of one of my candidates for Lukunjiri municipality, Sam Mugumia, and you advised the government to come and explain.
Honorable, you've come in the middle of a debate you're going to disorganize. You are not here. The Minister of Justice was also here, and you are not here.
Madam Speaker, I was not here, but you provided us with the technology to follow.
Okay.
And I was following.
Let's look at that when the Minister is here.
But there's a motion, Madam, to which you are supposed, under the rules, to listen.
Is it seconded?
Yes.
By who? Is the motion seconded?
But I haven't moved it, so what do they second when they don't know what I moved?
Is the motion seconded?
Yes. There is no motion, Madam. Can I move it?
Honorable Semuju, yes, let's finish today's work. You will bring your motion tomorrow. Next item. I must finish local government today, whether you want it or not. Honorable Minister, tell Honorable Attorney General, Minister of Justice, to bring a report on what Honorable Semuju raised.
Item 5 on the order paper. Motion for a resolution of Parliament to authorize government to borrow up to United States dollars 99.56 million from the International Fund for Agricultural Development, IFAD, to finance the proposed Resilient Livestock Value Chain Project, RELIV.
Honorable members, Article 159(2) of the Constitution of the Republic requires parliamentary approval for government to borrow. On Wednesday 3rd, 2025, the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development tabled a request for borrowing and was duly referred to the Committee of National Economy, and pursuant to Rule 58 of the Rules of Procedure, I will invite the Minister to move a motion seeking to borrow for approval of this House. Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Article 159(2) of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda and Section 36 and 37 of the Public Finance Management Act 2015 as amended, and Rule 58 of the Rules of Procedure of Parliament, I beg to move a motion for a resolution of Parliament to approve the proposal by government to borrow up to $99.56 million from the International Fund for Agriculture Development to finance the proposed Resilience Livestock Value Chain project. I beg to move, Right Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Seconded. Is the motion seconded? Seconded by Avoro, by Lagen, by Ayume, by Nandutu, by Rukungiri Municipality, by Afidra, Chemongesi, Elders, Isingiro, Honorable Kasai, Honorable Aisha, Honorable Lanyo, Honorable Nekesa, Olobo, Isodo, Koluo, Wanda, thank you. Wakorach,
thank you.
Wakorach David. Peter.
Wakorach Simon Peter.
Simon Peter, SP. Yes, Wakorach, but you resemble with the Lagen.
Madam Speaker, the goal of the project is contribute to improved livelihoods of smallholder livestock farmers in Uganda. The project development objective is to enhance income, nutrition, resilience of smallholder dairy and beef producers. The benefits and expected outcomes. Once this project is implemented, we will have the following benefits and outcomes. 1, increased productivity, value addition, resilience, and reduced climate impact on smallholder beef and dairy production systems. 2, enhance access to markets and value addition for smallholder producers and access to finance. 3, strengthened policy and regulatory environment. The scope of the project will focus on 55 selected districts in the cattle corridor of Uganda. The districts were selected based on the following: the high incidence and density of poverty, food insecurity, and malnutrition, hard size by the households, and potential for dairy and meat, value chain development including markets for animal sourced products, high potential for women and youth to get involved in the dairy and beef value chain, and climate vulnerability. In addition, the selection was based on subnational priorities and potential complementarities with ongoing development initiatives in the dairy and the cattle industry. The project has got 3 main components. Component 1 is increasing productivity and resilience and reducing impact of climate change on production. Component 2 is enhancing access to markets for the smallholder producers and investments in the value chain. And component 3 concentrates on the policy support and coordination. Madam Speaker, the financing. The overall cost of the project is estimated at $204.8 million. Of this total financing, $99.56 is from Uganda's IFAD Total Performance-Based Allocation System and IFAD's Borrowed Resource Access Mechanism. $50 million is from Global Environment Facility and Green Climate Fund, and $15 million is from the Africa Rural Climate Adaptation Finance Mechanism. The government of Uganda will contribute $31.97 million in form of in-kind or cash, and project beneficiaries will contribute to the project in cash or in-kind, amounting to at least US $8.3 million. The financing terms are the following. Facility amount, the loan is in 3 categories. Category A, US $71.65, category B, $17.91 million US, and category C is $10 million. The tenure of the loan is 50 years with under category A, and 40 years under B, and 29 years under category C. The grace period under category A is 10 years, under category B 10 years, and under category C also 10 years. The interest rate, Madam Speaker, under category A and B, the interest rate is 0, not applicable. And under category C, we have tentative interest rate of 5.35% at the time of IFAD board approval, and the market reference rate of 4.4% plus variable spread of 0.9% plus maturity premium of 0.05%. The service charge under category A is 0.1% per annum, and under category B is 0.75%, and under category C, the service charge is not applicable. What are the benefits? The project will directly benefit 400,000 households, and this is an equivalent of 2 million beneficiaries, indirectly through the different components or activities, and will have a minimum target of 40% women and 25% youth. Madam Speaker, with this justification, I submit to the House for consideration.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Minister. I now want to invite the chair to present a report to the effect.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, colleagues, honorable members of Parliament. This is the report of the Committee on National Economy, on the proposal to borrow up to US $99.56 million from the International Fund for Agricultural Development, IFAD, to finance the proposed Resilience Livestock Value Chain project. Right Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the report of the committee and the minutes of the committee before I read the report.
Please
I beg to lay. Right Honorable Speaker, the Minister has given a background to the project. On the 3rd of September, the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development laid this loan proposal to the House, requesting for approval. You referred this loan to the Committee on National Economy. The committee scrutinized the loan. We had an interaction with the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, together with the technical staff from Ministry of Finance. We had a meeting with the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries that is implementing the loan. And the committee also went ahead to review the documents that were laid before the committee as they were presenting the loan. That includes the minister's brief on the proposal to borrow US $99.56 million from IFAD to finance relief, and then the relief feasibility assessment report. Right Honorable Speaker. We also looked at the draft financing agreement. Initially, when the minister laid the brief in category C of the loan, the financing agreement indicated 29 years, and the ministry accepted. We corrected it together with the ministry, and we brought it to 29 years. We looked at the social impact assessment report for the project, the letter from National Planning Authority clearing the project. Initially, this project was to benefit about 41 districts, but with the intervention of the members and the NPA's guidance, the districts were pushed from 41 to 55 districts benefiting from this project, Right Honorable Speaker. We also looked at the relief implementation manual, the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development letter dated 21st, clearing that is the financial implications of the loan. And then the resilience relief appraisal documents, the procurement plan, the management structure, and the physical and financial progress report on externally funded projects. Right Honorable Speaker, the committee went and looked at the performance of previous projects that were under the sector, and more specifically, the one for Uganda's climate smart agriculture, which is actually not doing very well. The loan was approved. The loan was approved on the 25th of June 2024. The closure is supposed to be 2028, and the loan amount is $325 million US, and to date, the disbursement is only 26.51 million US, translating to 7.6% of the loan amount. We also looked at we're looking at loans that are not doing very well in the project. We're also looking at the one for irrigation for climate resilience, which was approved in December 2020, and to date the disbursement is only 21%. We looked at the national oilseed project, which was approved in July 2021, and it was 99.59 million US, and the disbursement is only 19%. Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, the committee looked at the project at the target population of 200,000 households. That has been stated by the minister. The minister has gone through the objectives, the beneficiaries of the project, and like I said, Right Honorable Speaker, that the project will be allocated in 55 districts, and the annexure is attached. Some districts were not part of it, but with the intervention, like I said, other districts were also included. A few districts were included. The annexure has 51, but the annexure has 51 districts, but the districts of Kumi, Kabale, Kasese, and Namutumba were added during looking at other parameters. We shall find out from the ministry. The districts were selected based on the following criteria: the high indices, the high incidences of density of poverty, food insecurity, malnutrition, 2, hard size by the households, and potential for dairy and beef or meat value chain development, including markets for animal-sourced products. 3, high potential for women and youth to get involved in the dairy and beef value chain. And 4, that is climate vulnerability. In addition, the project selection was based on subnational priorities and potential complementarities with the ongoing development initiatives in dairy and beef projects. Right Honorable Speaker, the project components have already been mentioned by the minister. I request that, Right Honorable Speaker, the cost financing of the project, and particularly the IFAD loan, that finances about 99% of the loan, and specifically the committee was looking at the funding by IFAD, the 3 loan components. The minister has already given us the loan terms, the conditions. Right, Honorable Speaker, maybe I could read through the conditions of the loan. The loan financing has the following conditions, among others. The financing agreement shall be suspended if the project implementation manual and any other provision thereof has been waived, suspended, terminated, amended, or modified without the prior agreement of the fund. And the fund, after consultation with the government or the borrower, has determined that it has had or is likely to have a material adverse effect on the project. B, financing will be cancelled in the event that the borrower does not request disbursement of the financing for a period of 12-month consecutive months without justification subsequent to the first 18 months from the effective date. C, government shall provide counterpart contribution for the project in the value of an amount of 31,970,000 US dollars in cash or in kind or in any or as may otherwise be agreed between the parties. Approval in accordance with the laws of the Republic of Uganda, and such evidence of approval shall be provided to the fund. Conditions precedent to effectiveness are the legal opinion of the Honorable Attorney General, clarifying that the financing agreement has been duly executed and is legally binding on the Republic of Uganda. The resolution of Parliament approving the terms and conditions of the loan, and C, a certificate issued by a duly authorized representative of the borrower listing the persons authorized to sign on behalf of the borrower the drawdown request and any certificate in connection with the loan. Conditions precedent to withdrawal: if had no objection to project implementation manual shall have been obtained. B, the project coordinator, manager, the procurement manager, the finance manager, the financial controller have been appointed or seconded to the project management unit with the prior no objection from the fund. Right Honorable Speaker, allow me to speak on the concessionality of the loan. Right Honorable Speaker, the nominal value of the loan in US dollars is equivalent to loan A is 71.65 million, loan B 17.91, and loan C is 10 million US dollars, with a maturity period of 50, 40, and 29 respectively. All the loans, all the 3 categories of the loan have 10 years grace period. The total debt service for loan A will be 73.62. Loan B will be 20.93. Loan C will be 19.62. And the total amount government of Uganda will pay after the 50 years, in the 50 years, will be 114.17 million US dollars. The present value for loan A is 20.76, loan B 7.55, and loan C 9.95. Jointly, that is 38.29. The grant element in loan A is 71%, loan B is 58%, loan C is 19%, and jointly the concessionality is 62%. Right Honorable Speaker, the proposed funding is purely concessional, and since the joint concessionality of the total IFAD borrowing for the project has a grant element of 62%. The grant element is higher than the concessional unit limit of 35%, as stipulated in our budget, in our public debt management framework 2023 to 2024, 2027, 2028, as well as the IMF and the World Bank thresholds. However, when isolated, it can be observed from table 7 that loan A and B are highly concessional, since their grant element is 71 and 58%, which are higher than our concessional limit of only 35% in the public debt management framework and in the World Bank and IMF thresholds. Moreover, their present value of debt is much lower than their nominal value, which implies that the total future payment of the loan is much cheaper than the proposed amount to be borrowed in present terms. This is mostly driven by their lower service charges, which are less than 1%, longer grace period, and the maturity periods. On the other hand, loan C is semi-concessional, since the grant element is 19%, which is lower than 35% of the concessional loan, but higher than 10%, the limit for semi-concessional loans. The present value of the loan is $9.98 million, which is lower than the nominal value of $10 million, which implies that the total future payment of the loan is cheaper than the proposed amount to be borrowed in the present terms. Right Honorable Speaker, the budgetary implications. The project is not included in the proposed national budget for the financial year 2025-2026. In addition, the project is not listed among the projects in the public investment plan for the financial year 2025-2026. However, the report on public debt, grants, guarantees, and other financial liabilities for the financial year 2024-2025 lists it as one of the projects in the pipeline as of end of March 2025. The impact on debt sustainability. As at end of December 2024, the total public debt stock stood at $29.06 billion, which is equivalent to Uganda shillings 106.97 trillion, increasing from $27.77 billion, which is equivalent to 102.95 trillion Uganda shillings, as at end of June 2024. This debt stock constitutes of Uganda shillings 53.75 trillion, equivalent to 14 billion US dollars as external debt, and 53.22 trillion, while 53.22 trillion, equivalent to 14.45, is domestic debt as at end of December 2024. Uganda's debt remains sustainable, with a nominal value of public debt to GDP at 50.3 as at December 2024, compared to 50.9 as at June 2024. The proposal of this loan, the approval of this loan will increase the external debt exposure for public and publicly guaranteed debt by US dollars 99.56 million, and the share of the GDP by 0.16%, even though public debt will remain within the sustainable levels. Uganda is rated at moderate risk of debt distress. If Uganda experiences an adverse shock leading to a decline in the GDP growth, some of the debt risks indicators will exceed our CAFR thresholds, rendering our debt unsustainable. The committee observations and recommendations. Right Honourable Speaker, the committee observed that the rules of procedure of Parliament stipulate that business referred before any committee will be considered within 45 days. However, of recent, we have noted a surge in loan requests being submitted to Parliament at a tail end of their loan approval dates. However, the committee observed that the terms of the proposed IFAD loan were approved in September 2024, and it was cleared by Right Honourable Prime Minister for presentation to Cabinet on the 1st of August. Consequently, the loan request was submitted to Parliament on the 22nd of August 2025, a month before the expiry of the loan offered by IFAD to Government of Uganda, and laid before the House on the 3rd of September 2025. The committee had 4 working days to consider the loan request. This makes it very difficult for the committee to scrutinize the loan request and report to the House adequately. The committee notes that the proposed financing terms of IFAD are highly concessional with long maturity and grace periods of recent. Government has not been having access to such concessional loans, with most recent loan requests thought on either semi-concessional or commercial terms, less than 30 years of maturity and grace period of mostly 5 years. The committee recommends that government, through Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, should develop a tracking mechanism for expiry of loan requests to ensure loans are submitted to Parliament with adequate time to facilitate scrutiny of the loan requests, allowing at least a period of 45 days recommended in the rules of procedure of Parliament to enable Parliament understand the details associated with each proposed request. The need to discuss the project details. The committee observed that the project cost of $204.8 million. However, the cost breakdown is indicated at the component level. The outputs described under the project loan were not costed to facilitate oversight of the unit cost of various outputs. That will be financed under the project. In addition, the committee noted that part of the IFAD loan proceeds will be used to acquire vehicles. That is about $2,796,000,000. Consultancy is about $4.464 million. Training and workshops is $4.11 million, as observed in Table 4. The committee is concerned that these are consumptive items taking up a substantive amount of the loan proceeds. A case in point is the project plan to acquire 15 vehicles, which translates to a unit cost of about $186,000 per vehicle, which is equivalent to 671 million. The committee requests the MAIF to share the costed units under the project component to facilitate oversight of the unit costs. However, by the time this report was placed, this information had not yet been received. The committee recommends that, given the time constraints where government needs to sign the loan by 12th of September 2025, and the opportunity cost of government not signing the loan in time is high, the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries finds time to discuss the costed outputs of the project even after the IFAD funding is considered. In addition, the loan should be renegotiated to remove resources from consumptive items to acquisition of goods and services and inputs, as well as equipment and materials. Geographical location of the loan. The committee observed that the project location is in the Kato corridor, and so all the districts in the Kato corridor were included. However, the selection criteria of projects had included some parameters related to poverty, which saw some districts included in the project like Luka, Yumbe, Namutumba, among others. The committee noted that while the criteria for selecting beneficiary districts in the Kato corridor is very clear, other parameters are not. Namely, the high incidences of density of poverty, food security and malnutrition, the hard size of the households, and potential for dairy and beef value chain development, high potential for women and youth to get involved in the dairy and beef value chain, climate vulnerability, and subnational priorities and potential complementarities with the ongoing development in the dairy and beef industry. The committee was concerned that some sub-regions had no districts benefiting from the project, yet they fall under the other categories used to select the beneficiary districts. The committee was informed that most of the districts from those sub-regions had benefited from the Uganda Climate Smart Agriculture Transformation Projects, and so this project was benefiting the districts that did not benefit from the Uganda Climate Smart Transformation Projects. The committee recommends that government should always ensure that all loans have a national character. In conclusion, Right Honorable Speaker, from the above detailed report, it can be inferred that the loan is highly concessional and the proposed project is viable and in line with the government plans and inspirations. Subject to the above observations and recommendations, the committee recommends the approval of the proposed borrowing of up to US $99.56 million from the IFAD to finance the proposed Resilience Livestock Value Chain Project Relief. I beg to report.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the report. You've had a report from the Chair. I just wanted a clarification where Chair said. Chair, you said smart what? Climate Smart was performing at 7.6%. Is that true?
Right Honorable Speaker, you remember that on the 25th, the loan on Climate Smart became effective on the 25th of June 2024. And this loan was passed by this very House. The loan amount was 325 million. And to date, most of the components in this facility have not actually taken off, except for the ones being implemented under local governments, that is the roads under, I think.
What activities have not taken off?
Right Honorable Speaker, due to constraint of time, we're supposed to go to the field with the Ministry of Agriculture to assess the performance of specifically this loan. Because when we looked at the report that was laid by Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, they had only showed that the disbursement was only 26 out of 325 million US dollars. Only 26.5 had been received from the World Bank to finance this project, translating to the disbursement rate of only 7.6%. So the financial performance is actually indicating that it's very low. Compared, looking at the time, over the last 1 year, we have only had a disbursement of 7.6%. So maybe the Ministry of Agriculture, unfortunately the Minister of Agriculture is not here, maybe he would be the right person to explain
No,
why.
he delegated the Minister of Finance. Where is Honorable Musasisi? He is gone out. Get for me Honorable Musasisi. Can I find out something? The interest that we are paying, are we paying the interest on 325 or on 26? Honorable Musasisi, what I'm asking, why isn't Yes, Honorable Minister.
Madam Speaker, can I get the question right?
One, we have Uganda Climate Smart Agriculture. The loan that was approved was 325. As of now, what has been disbursed is only 26.5. The question is, how come that we are performing at only 7.6? And then the second question is, when we are paying interest, are we paying interest on 325 or we are paying interest on 26.1? 26.5.
Madam Speaker, the interest is normally charged on the total loan amount.
That is the 3.25.
Yes.
Why is the absorption low?
Why the absorption low? Now the entity implementing can answer that.
And then the districts, Honorable Chair, the districts where there is where we are implementing the climate smart, are they the same districts benefiting from this loan?
Madam Speaker, the districts that have benefited or are going to benefit under Climate Smart should not benefit from this program. Yes. Yes.
Yes, Honorable Chibombe.
Honorable Speaker, I thank you. Right Honorable Speaker, one, I've seen districts, I've just audited projects, and I've seen districts that are in smart, climate smart agriculture, whatever it is, are on the list of this one. Check Gomba. Gomba district. I'll give you one so that I know of. That is
under climate smart.
Yes.
What activities are supposed to be done in the Gomba?
Under climate smart, for all projects, they are doing some feeder roads. They are giving people high quality seeds. They are giving them cattle. They are giving them fertilizers. They are giving them solar pumps. Things I've seen in this project, similar to what they are in the other project. And you have the two district featuring on both scales. But also speak also, there's something that I have known out of experience. Having looked at projects, honorable colleagues, look at the project component finance, Honorable Speaker. Is this project for government farms or for wananchi? When I've seen the project component, $59 million. I don't know the page. On my page, it's on page 9. When you look at the project component, one, they are going to equip, they are going to a national feed testing reference laboratory to support animal feed quality assurance is at Naro. The cost is not there. Another one is at Kawanda. Another one is at Aswa and Nakshari. That is 59 million US dollars of the 99. And when you go through that list up to E, you don't see a farmer there. You are only seeing government ranches being equipped. So this loan is specifically for who? And when you go to the third, the other component.
Honorable, when the private farmers are being given, say, cattle or whatever, they get it from the government ranch.
Yes, but
so what happens is they provide for the government ranch, and then it is from the government ranch that this can be distributed to
if you have to take that, then you are going to have only 2 centers, in Aswa and in Kashari something. But when I look to also project component 2, which is aggregation of production and access to market for smallhold farmers, 31 billion. And I looked at what they are going to do, solar pumps, whatever, rehabilitation, and things of that for animal feeds. When you study this component and what he has raised, plus a management fee of 8 million US dollars, which I've seen here. 8 million US dollars is going to go towards management. And the other component has raised. Is this project, because that's at the core of our report, is that most projects you have looked at don't press money where it is adequately needed. It goes to components where it is easy to eat the money through consultancy, through management, through other things. And by the time you evaluate a project component, and in my report I'm going to give you a couple, including a GROW, which GROW I looked at it, and the project loanable component is only $30 million out of 217. This looks like a classical failed project that is intended to benefit only the elite, not the real farmers. And I'm not convinced now that this committee has adequately looked at this, had time to look at this project, the benefits, who will put a project component on all these 59 and tell us who exactly is going to benefit. I see a similarity with the pyro projects I'm going to give you here. Yeah. None has succeeded.
Okay. So we'll wait to hear your report. Let these students, pupils leave. In the public gallery this afternoon, we have students and teachers from Meta Primary School, from Oyam County, North, Oyam District. They are represented by Honorable Eunice Apio, and Honorable Santa Alum. You're welcome. Where are you? Where are the students? You're most welcome. Thank you so much for coming to Parliament of Uganda. This is your house. Thank you. We also have in the public gallery this afternoon, we have a delegation from Uganda Local Government Association and Urban Authorities Association. Where are they? We have Honorable Kitata Abdul, LOC 5 Luengo, they left. We have Honorable Turari Alon, LOC 5 Chairman Isingiro, who is an post already. We have Honorable Akuku Richard, Secretary General, Local Governments. Thank you for coming. Yes.
I want to thank you very much. Even before we discuss this request, the chair of the committee has raised the fundamental issues. First issue is that they did not have adequate time to scrutinize this loan request and therefore advise Parliament adequately. That is in his report. Then he says you have nearly $3 million to buy 15 vehicles, management, etc. They were unable to look at the detailed cost component. And then the chair of the committee, while presenting the report of the committee, I want to address the chair. This colleague vending requests here. So, Madam Speaker, the committee report says go and renegotiate this loan request. I don't know what's wrong with colleagues. That you can say all the things that you have said, and then you say you want the loan approved. Remember, we have approved loans here before, and the president said, don't process them. It made us look so ridiculous before the public. And he was very angry. So,
Honorable, not us, because before that loan comes here, it comes from cabinet. It makes cabinet, not us.
Yeah,
because for us, we approve what comes from cabinet.
I agree, Madam Speaker. That's why I'm saying, with the proposals that the committee has made, they have left us with no option but to say no to this loan request. I think they are only polite, not to make government look bad, that after informing you of all the problems associated with the request, then they say it is up to you to hang yourself. And I am asking this parliament, please don't accept to hang yourself. They have said the most fundamental issue, they must renegotiate the terms of this loan request. Now, if you approve, what will you be approving?
Which term are we talking about? If you can tell the House.
I am referring to the report, Madam Speaker. If you look at the last page, after advising government to go and renegotiate, then in conclusion they are saying, but you can pass. It is in the report. But also fundamentally, the committee says this loan is not part of the, because government, Minister of Finance presents to Parliament a borrowing plan every year that comes together with a budget. The committee says this is even outside what they brought here. I don't know when they thought about it. And then, most important, Madam Speaker, you are going to borrow to finance the budget 34 trillion shilling. Already, in the report on loans that the minister presented here, where the public debt now stands at 106 trillion. But there is almost a permission we've given them that to finance this budget, you borrow another 34 on top of 106. And in their own report presented here, the minister said now there is a high risk of distress in his report. I therefore thought, Madam Speaker, if you allow me later, I will come and make my submission. But I thought, yes.
Yes.
Right, Honourable Speaker.
Peter.
There seems to be some contradictions here. With due respect, Right Honourable Speaker.
Peter.
The chair, while submitting on these loans, personally, I was there when you were referring the loan to the committee. We got enough time to scrutinize the loan, and that did not come from the chairman. We interacted when the chairman was submitting here, Right Honourable. We interacted with all the stakeholders.
Let's have respect for each other. So what's wrong with it?
I am not debating, Right Honourable. I am not responding with due respect to the senior, that our chairman did not mention anything to do with the time bounds, that we didn't have enough time. We interacted with all the stakeholders.
Honourable members, honourable members, honourable members, the chair said that the committee is expected to report back within 45 days. However, because of the urgency of the loan and because of the timeline, and even when I was referring this committee report, this loan request to the committee, I requested them to come back today because of the deadline that was given to us. This loan is supposed to be signed off on 12th, and today is 9th, and that is basically what happened. And the chairperson said he would have wanted to use the 45 days. However, because of the timeline that was given to the House, that's why this loan has had to come back today. Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, it is true this loan has strict timelines. We must sign off by 12th, or else we lose the money, and also all other programmed borrowing under IFAD.
But maybe what I can clarify, while we're on short recess, this loan was brought to my office. And we could not call the House just to receive one single loan. The loan was brought. Remember, we had a short recess of almost 1 month plus, when people were busy looking for votes. So the issue is not finance or whichever. The loan came and it was here. There is no way we could call a House for just one item.
Then another clarification.
Let's get clarifications from the Minister.
Another clarification, Madam Speaker, I'd like to make is that to allay Honorable Semuju's fears is that this loan has got the best terms. The terms are very okay, and it is highly concessional, whereby under category A and B, the interest rate is 0. So you can imagine a loan which we are getting for 0 interest rate. So there is no interest we are going to charge, and the repayment period is 50 years. So you can imagine with a grace period of 10 years. So this is the best arrangement you can have. Now on the date, he also mentioned that our debt has increased to 106 trillion. Whereas this is true, we also stated in the same report that our debt remains sustainable both now and in the medium term. So, Madam Speaker, and also he mentions another point, that this loan is not part of our borrowing to finance this year's budget. It is not true. We cannot bring here a loan, Madam Speaker, outside our programmed borrowing. This is part of our programmed borrowing for the year. Madam Speaker, with these clarifications, I want to play that the House approves my motion.
Silo, thank you.
Right Honorable Speaker, number one, I want to applaud the committee on the issue of having the national character whenever we borrow
including
money. Yes, including
Ikumi.
And the people are already benefiting. And most of the people who are benefiting from this kind of funding are the people in the villages. Most of the monies that we have been borrowing are monies which are benefiting the urbanites. Why don't you allow people from the rural, for the first time, to also see something? Number two, a grace period of 10 years these days is not something which is easy to get when you are borrowing money. So why wouldn't we really pass this loan? Look at this issue of 0% interest rate. Where do you get it from around the world? At a time when Trump is saying we are not giving money to people, to foreigners, where do you get it? I'm also very excited that we are talking about a highly concessional facility. Madam Speaker, I want to move as a person that will approve this loan because it's for the many. It is for the majority, not the minority who are in the urban.
Avoro.
I beg to move.
Thank you, Avoro.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, before I make my contribution as per this loan, I want to stand here on behalf of the people of Pakwach who requested me to heartily congratulate you for that high office that you have risen to. Right Honorable Speaker, congratulations from the people of Pakwach. Right Honorable Speaker,
let me first receive my congratulations.
we have...
Yes, first wait. Let me first receive them. No, people of Pakwach are watching.
Yes, it is me who represent them, not Sarah Opendi.
Yes.
Sarah, you are my friend. Let's cooperate. Right Honorable Speaker, about this loan, Right Honorable Speaker, we have received a number of loans here, and as a house, we have been very concerned at
Honorable Vuru, are you a committee member? Now that you have finished with the congratulations. Honorable members, I put a question that this House authorizes government to borrow up to USD 99.56 million from the International Fund for Agriculture Development, IFAD, to finance the proposed resilient livestock value chain project. Those in favor sign the contrary nay. The ayes have it. You're going to destroy your voice for no good reason. The ayes have it. Can I ask the clerk to immediately get the resolution and forward for us to be able to meet the deadline? Honorable Chivumbi, for us to borrow, your work is to ensure that you report back on what is happening, and I hope you're going to report exactly what is happening in these projects. Thank you. Next item.
Item 6 on the order paper. Motion for adoption of the report of the Committee on Public Accounts, Central Government, on the annual report of the Auditor General to Parliament for the audit year ended 31st December 2024.
Honorable members, on 21st January 2025, the House received the reports from the Auditor General for the audit year ended 31st December 2024. In furtherance to Article 163.3 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, 1995, the report was referred to the Public Accounts Committee, Central Government, for consideration of the entities that are mentioned. And as I said previously, that I received the reports, all the reports for Park Central. Honorable Peter, there are things regarding education, kindly be around. As I said before, I was impressed with the leadership of Park Central and the members, that the reports are ready and ready for submission, and we will get the reports, and pursuant to Rule 18 Sub-Rule 5 of the Rules of Procedure, I will invite the chairperson of Park Central to present. But meanwhile, allow me to thank Chairperson of National Economy and the members for the report. Yes, Park.
Right Honorable Speaker, I'd like to thank the committee members. Right Honorable Speaker, the committee members of PAC were exceptional. Even under difficult circumstances, they found time to come and do work. I must be humbled by their contribution, and thank you so much. Right Honorable Speaker, we have done all the audit on all entities, except you can't do all, but majority of them, to give us a good sample of what it is, except, Right Honorable Speaker, for classified expenditure. And today, Right Honorable Speaker, I wrote a letter requesting you as the chair of classified to ensure that we have a meeting. And last year
that's the indoor management rule. We shall discuss those ones. That's why they call it classified. Indoor management.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the reports report of Park Central on all entities under Park, and I beg to lay. I also beg to lay the minutes of the meetings. Right Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Chair.
Right Honorable Speaker, I'm going to present, it's a huge work. I'll present some and the deputy will do the needful on municipal policy statements. Right Honorable Speaker, I'm going to start with something we've been talking about, consolidated accounts of government. Right Honorable Speaker, the Auditor General reviewed the approved resource envelope and
Honorable members, the report was uploaded, but it is too big.
And revenue estimates of government for the financial year, and noted that government planned to raise 52.7 trillion to fund its expenditure. I've started with the revenue. This was later revised to 56.247 trillion. Details of the resource envelope as shown below. From URA to everything is 52. Right Honorable Speaker, expenditure performance. During the financial year under review, government initially planned to spend a total of 42.73 trillion, which was later revised to 61.69 trillion. This indicated that government total expenditure supplementary budgets passed mounted to 8.932 trillion. The summary of the distribution of the expenditure budget is as shown below. Observation, Right Honorable Speaker. And when you look at that table, Right Honorable Speaker, and the first to tell you about the performance of what we are doing here, borrowing, raising funds. In the first table on revenue, government planned to spend 56.742 trillion. Actual money raised from borrowings, from whatever grants, revenue, was 47.110 trillion. That's the amount of money that we got out, and we had a budget of 61 trillion. In the budget of 61 trillion, Right Honorable Speaker, government spent 48.68 trillion. That is, I've looked at revenue and expenditure. Committee observation. Government raised its revenue budget from 52 to 46. To 56. Government actual revenue realized was 47, leading to a shortfall of 9.137 trillion. Actual revenue realized was 47.11 trillion, which is below the initial budget of 52.72, implying that revised revenue budgets of 56 were unrealistic and uncalled for. 5. Government revised the expenditure budget from 52 to 61, but actually spent 48.061 trillion. By this revision, government fails to match the revenue budget of 61 with the corresponding revenue revision, resulting into a shortfall of 5.442 trillion. Government actually spent 48.68 trillion, was over and above total government revenue of 47.1, resulting into an over expenditure of 1.57 trillion. Right Honorable Speaker, this is scandalous. How do you spend more money than you actually were able to raise in revenue? But I'll go on. So, because in any way, there is no way you will spend money.
What are you saying? How do you spend more than what you raise in revenue?
In total revenue.
The source of funding is both on revenue and loans.
No.
Do you consider both of them?
No. Right Honorable Speaker, the 47 trillion, which government raised as revenue, included loans, grants, whatever, and revenue collection of URA and internal NTR. That's all we are able to raise as the country, 47. But by end of the year, we had spent 48, actually spent 48.48 1.68 trillion. That means 1.5 trillion was spent. Over from where? But I'll tell you from where. Right, Honorable Speaker, the committee further discovered that government had an overdraft. Yes, I'm giving true information, and you know it. I'm giving true information, Honorable Musasizi, and don't intimidate me. The committee further discovered that government had an overdraft of 1.7 trillion, which was unauthorized borrowing, contrary to Section 34 of the Public Finance Management Act.
The audio was from where?
I'm coming. They did an overdraft, okay? And if I read the next paragraph, the overdraft was later settled by revenue of another financial year, 2024-25, which is illegal. Because appropriation of the financial year collapses on 30th of June. There is no way you can use revenue of another financial year to settle an overdraft that was borrowed in a previous financial year. This is outrightly illegal, and it undermines Parliament, it undermines your power. Any powers of appropriation of money solely lies in this House you chair. But this is what happened. It's not a rumor, it was canvassed with the committee, those who were there, a technical committee of them and us agreed, and they realized and considered they did an overdraft, which was wrong.
Honorable Minister, take note of that.
The committee further observed that government had continued to operate an unbalanced budget where the total expenditure estimates have not been balanced with the total revenue. This has been a recurring concern over the years as per the table below. This is a little bit of impunity, Right Honorable Speaker. As you sit in your good chair there, they bring you rosy figures for which they don't match revenue and expenditure. In the year 2021, they had a budget of 51.6. Their total revenue budget was 48.7. In 2021-22, it was 51.561. Revenue was 47.2. In 2022-23, it was 52.58. Revenue was 48.13. In 2023-24, it was 61.69. Revenue budget was 56.47. So, Right Honorable Speaker, and that's why I've always argued the issue of balloon budget, for which the country uploads 71 trillion, whatever trillion, is for purposes of raising the 3%, nothing else. The committee first observed that the budget has been largely misleading, and perhaps the only purpose is to provide a huge quantum for the obnoxious yield of the 3% supplementary expenditure. The committee recommends that the accounting officer and the Minister of Finance should be personally held responsible for running an unbalanced budget. The accounting officer should put in place mechanisms to ensure that the national budget is always balanced. Right Honorable Speaker, and I hope the Minister knows the provision under which he is supposed to give an explanation for what happened, where he spent more money than what was appropriated to do. Unfunded approved budget. During the financial year 2024, Parliament appropriated a total of 61.69 trillion to finance government expenditure as highlighted in the table below. The table below shows what government we had planned to spend 61, warranted was 51.72, a variance between warrant and expenditure 11 trillion, and the percentage there is 18%, could not even be warranted. The committee observed that issuing expenditure limits to entities to spend beyond the revenue projection creates unnecessary outstanding commitments to government. That's why every ministry agency under this financial year, they accumulated areas. Every single one agency of government. Section 41, except State House. Section 41 and 2 of the PFM Cap 71 requires that after approval of the annual budget by Parliament, the Secretary to Treasury shall issue the annual cash flow plans of government based on the procurement work plans, and recruitment plans approved by Parliament. The cash flow plan shall form the basis for the release of funds by the Accountant General to the accounting officer. Therefore, the assertion by PSST that actual revenue deviates from the projection due to internal and external economic shocks contradicts the law and is an aspect of poor planning. Therefore, for Parliament to continue to approve budget estimates without corresponding and predictable sources of funding is an indictment on the keenness and of scrutiny and approval process of the budget by Parliament. Even this House, Right Honorable Speaker, is indicted in this. These committees that look through the budgets and bring here rosy pictures without revenue, as well as any other recommendation. The committee recommends that Parliament should exercise more due diligence on the budget and only proceed to approve if the proposals by government are matched with the projected revenue sources. The committee recommends that Ministry of Finance should ensure that all warrants issued are supported by sufficient revenue resources to fund such warrants, and also provide guidance to MDAs in regard to prioritization of activities to the level of available resources in cases of shortfalls. Unfunded invoices. Right Honorable Speaker, I have spoken about earlier of an overdraft, but now the Auditor General reported of unfunded invoices by closer of the financial year stood at 11.12 trillion. Right Honorable Speaker, the Auditor General noted that a total of 11.12 trillion worth of invoices remained unfunded by the close of a financial year. The unfunded invoices are mainly comprised of treasury operations, which is 8.31 trillion, and MDAs accumulated 2.8 trillion. Audit noted that the unpaid debt obligation of treasury operations attracts penalties by BOU and an accumulation of domestic area and its associated costs. And the penalties under the financial year by BOU to Government of Uganda for unfunded invoices mounted to 250 billion. The figure will come later in the treasury operations. Auditor General revealed that the statement of financial position and disclosure in Note 25 and noted an increase in payable. This is, Honorable Speaker, from you are issuing warrants, you have no money to pay. Now payables, which is money government has failed to pay its suppliers, rose from 10.10 trillion in the financial year to 13.814 trillion by the end of the financial year, an increase of 31.54%. Further analysis revealed that the new payables accrued stood at 6.6939 trillion compared to 3.69 trillion paid during the financial year. In one financial year, they accrued a payable of 6.7 trillion, but only settled areas of 3.69 trillion. This indicates that the rate at which government contracts domestic area is much higher than the rate of payment, leading to continued accumulation of domestic areas. Observation. The committee observed that payables had increased from 10 to 13. Further analysis revealed that it's the same I'm repeating. However, the audit revealed that unfunded invoices by 30th of June of 2024 stood at 11 trillion. This implies that by close of the financial year, the actual payable stood at 24.58 trillion, which is 13.84 plus the 11 invoices that stood at 11, and that's the cost now. These are invoices. The committee observed that during the appropriation, Parliament had allocated a mere 200 billion towards settlement of domestic areas. However, government paid 3.69 trillion during the year. According to Auditor General, this is an overpayment of 3.4 trillion outside appropriation, which is illegal.
Proceed.
Committee recommendation.
Procedure, Madam Speaker.
Committee recommends that accounting officer should be held accountable for an overpayment of 3.49 over and above appropriation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Mr. Chair, I want to thank you for the report, but Mr. Chair, you realize that the report you are giving is very important, not only to this House, but to the nation. When you are talking about the payables, that means the amount of money that government owes to the suppliers. And this definitely means that it has a negative effect on the quality or amount of service delivery. How it would have been better if you went to specific to show which sectors are mainly affected as a result of that non-payment to suppliers. No. But there are critical sectors like roads, like maybe, water. If you could specify, be specific.
Honorable, this is an executive summary. When you look at the report, which is a public document, anybody can retrieve it anytime. When you look at the report will show you the specifics of the payables that are to be paid. For instance, water is Minister of Water, Minister of Energy, and even people who have supplied the government are still demanding money from government. So when you look at the specifics, then you'll find it in those reports. And whoever really wants these reports can extract them. So what the chairperson has done is to aggregate it to give you the increment from the last financial year vis-a-vis this financial year under review. The consolidated one.
Thank you, Right Honorable. How I would then pray that the chair presents, and then we are given time to go through this report, then we are able to generate the necessary debate and add to their recommendations. Right Honorable Speaker, I beg your indulgence.
First of all, in a public gallery, we have children and teachers from St. Kisito, Ediofe, Orphans Primary School, Arua District. They are represented by Honorable Osoru Maureen and Honorable Emetia John. You're most welcome all the way from Arua. Thank you so much for coming. Yes, Honorable Avuru, the chairman is going to present this report. What we did was to upload it in the system. It is in the system. We'll debate it and approve it and make sure that we have the report, because tomorrow we'll have another report. Let's go through this report, we debate it. Yes.
Right Honorable Speaker, I proceed to non-performing receivables.
Non-performing receivables.
Yes. The Auditor General noted that included in the receivables under note, Honorable Mrs. Take heart, every figure I read here is as is in the Auditor General's report. I don't manufacture any number in the committee. The Auditor General noted that in the receivable under note 20 of the accounts are loans to private and state enterprises mounting, Right Honorable Speaker, to 7.7 trillion, which included non-performing receivables of 919 billion and had not been performing for over 20 years. A provision of a bad debt of 247 billion has been made in this regard. So, Right Honorable Speaker, sometime when I speak these numbers, 7.7 trillion is money government has upfronted companies and organizations to do particular kinds of work and they have not performed. And they are 7.7 trillion. the amount appear irrecoverable and hence overstating the receivable. Audit further noted some of the private enterprises no longer exist, and those that still exist do not recognize their ability in their financial statements. Under the circumstances, the non-performing receivables in question may not be recoverable. Committee observation. Upon review of the list of companies submitted to the committee noted that most of the companies and entities were still existing. Therefore, the association by the accounting officer, the assertion by the accounting officer is misleading. The committee further noted that some of the companies for which the Ministry of Finance is seeking a write-off from government are in good and sound financial position. Therefore, asking government to write off their receivable is a scheme to defraud government of its intended funds. For example, the committee established that DFCU Bank as one of the companies seeking a write-off, which made a profit of 72 billion in the financial year 2024, a significant increase from 28 billion in 2023. Therefore, de-recognizing their receivable to amounts to deliberate loss of public funds. So if a company made a profit of 72 billion, how do we write off? Other entities with non-performing receivable included the Entebbe Airport, worth 481.8 billion, Uganda Rails Corporation, 128, Uganda Growers Corporation, 168 billion. The committee noted that most of the entities thereof exist and the accounting officers should proceed and make recoveries. Committee recommendation. The committee recommended that the accounting officer should institute recovery measures from the companies, including exploring the possibility of turning the outstanding commitments into equity. Management of letters of credit. Right Honorable Speaker, letters of credit for the uninitiated is money. For example, if Parliament in a given year intends to build a chamber and it does not perform by end of a financial year, it doesn't want to return the money, it writes a letter of credit in the Bank of, I'm just giving an example for Bank of Uganda. Auditor General reported that disclosed under Note 19 are prepayments and advances of 1.47 trillion, which comprises of letters of credit of 223.23 billion, overpayment of 488.6 and advances of 716 billion. He, however, reported that letters of credit of worth 219.8 billion were classified under other payments and advances. In addition, 111 letters of credit worth 154 billion had not performed for more than a year, out of which 80 letters of credit worth 148, 80%, had not performed for more than 2 years. Further, the government incurred 3 billion as a cost for renewal, extensions, and commissions for letters of credit. Right Honorable Speaker, included in the letters of credit is a letter of credit from Parliament of Uganda for the chamber. It's not performing well. Committee observation. The committee observed that despite the PSST's guidance on letters of credit, there is a weak enforcement by accounting officer. The committee further noted that delays in the performance of LCs hold up financial resources for other priority activities besides the avoidable extra cost incurred in renewals and extensions. As you search for money, borrow here, there is money that has not been utilized for 2 years. It's in the billions, it's in the Bank of Uganda. And Right Honorable Speaker, most of that money later on you will discover is money for projects and also money for Ministry of Defense, because it's consuming a lot of money. That later that gave them sole monopoly to do all works in government without capacity. All agencies do is to issue letters of credit to defense, and the project remains for 2 years and done. Zero recovery of accumulated areas of revenue. Audit noted that government had accumulated revenues by 30th June in the entities mounting to 722 billion as follows. Out of areas of NTR as at of 30th of June, worth 457, only 107 billion was collected during the year, leaving 367 billion, 77.4% uncollected for 2 consecutive years as of 30th June 2024. Total 45 boards had accumulated areas of revenue from previous financial year of 77 million, with 0 collection recoveries made during the year. And those 24 votes are annexed in the main report. By 30th of June, the entity had accumulated areas of revenue of 772 trillion. Therefore, Mr. Musasi, as you go on borrowing, you have a lot of money here. You can go after these that have areas of revenue. The committee observed that government not only failed to pay domestic areas amounting to 24 trillion, but also failed to collect 772 billion in outstanding revenue areas. This reflects a breakdown in both revenue and expenditure discipline.
And Honorable Musasi knows that the principle of accounting is that you collect what is due to you before even you do the payment. So this is a serious matter.
The committee further noted that continued accumulation of areas of revenue deprives government of much needed financial resources and may result in loss of public funds. Further, government had failed to formulate adequate policy guidelines in recognizing doubtful debts and uncollectible areas. This explanation by PSST is therefore not correct. Committee recommends that the accounting officer failed to collect revenues should be personally held liable. These accounting officers, Honorable Speaker, we approve here. Those that fail to collect revenue, why should we continue to approve them? And that list is here. 2, the PSST should formulate effective policy to manage revenue and the resulting receivable as a matter of priority. Supplementary releases without request from accounting officers. Right Honorable Speaker, a total of 382 billion worth of supplementary releases were made without request from the accounting officers of various entities. And the law is very clear. It is an accounting office of parliament that initiates a supplementary request. But there is no way the reverse can happen, where finance sends you money.
So how did the finance know what the accounting officer needed?
So the reverse happened. Finance sent money to these accounting officers without a request from them. And much as they are saying part of it was for gratuity, the first explanation we got, Right Honorable Speaker, was that the large amount of money was for gratuity and pension, which is not true. Even the money is outside. Gratuity and pensions were advanced to accounting officers without their request. And the schedule is there in the report. Share of Honorable Semju has ever come on this issue on this floor. A review of share purchases in the Roco Construction Company. Right Honorable Speaker, on 30th June 22, Parliament of Uganda passed a resolution authorizing a government to acquire 150,000 preferential shares in Roco Construction Limited, worth 270.01 billion. Audit noted that Clerk to Parliament had communicated to the Minister of Finance to pay 207.13 billion, which was subsequently paid, resulting in an excess payment of 117 million. Share subscription agreement was signed on 20th day of July 2022 between Minister of Finance on behalf of government and the construction company. A review of the share purchase process revealed the following. Section 21 of the Public Funds Management Act states that a vote shall not enter contract, transaction, or an agreement that binds the government to a financial commitment for more than one financial year, for which results in contingent liability, except where the financial commitment.
Honorable Chivumbi, where you say the clerk to Parliament had communicated to Minister of Finance to pay. You could actually, you're better off saying that the clerk to Parliament communicated the resolution of Parliament.
I beg to amend accordingly.
Okay.
A resolution of payment.
Because I don't want the clerk to be good, that is the one who authorized. No, it was a resolution of Parliament that he communicated. Thank you.
Yeah, of course, Parliament is not indicted here. Parliament communicated the right amount.
No, I want to protect my clerk.
Yes.
Yes.
Parliament communicated the right amount. It's the Minister of Finance that paid over and above what Parliament communicated. But the question is they had paid earlier than Parliament approved. So that's the resultant effect of doing things the wrong way. A review of the company records at Uganda Registration Bureau, honorable colleagues, revealed the following. The company in a special resolution dated, this is too much, but I want to take you straight to where, okay, let me read, this is critical. The company in a special resolution dated 8th October 2021 has filed at URSB on 20th July 2022 resolved that the company creates preferential redeemable shares, each valued at 1 million and issued at a premium of 380,000 per share. The resolution also provided for the rights attached to the redeemable shares. In a subsequent resolution dated 2022 October 2021 and filed at URSB on 25th July 2022, the company resolved that 150,000 preferential redeemable shares of 1 million issued a premium of this per share be allocated to Government of Uganda. In a special resolution of the company dated 2020 October 2021 and filed with URSB on 14th July 2022, the company resolved to increase its share capital from 15 billion to 222.13 billion and to create 150,000 preferential redeemable shares to be allocated to Government of Uganda. The company filed an amended company memoranda and articles of association for the company with URSB on the 20th July 2022, in which the company indicated its share capital as 222.13 billion divided into 15,000 ordinary shares and 1 million each and 150,000 redeemable preferential shares issued at a premium of 380.63 shillings per share. Auditor General further noted that the process of purchase of shares and subsequent binding agreement had been completed before approval of Parliament, as noted by the facts. This is the Auditor General, Right Honourable Speaker. Now, the share certificate issued by the company for the 150,000 redeemable shares of government was issued on second day of October 2021. B, in a company resolution made on the 2nd of October 2021 at an extraordinary meeting, the company resolved that 150,000 preferential redeemable shares be created and allotted to Government of Uganda. The company's return of allotment of shares dated 20 October 2021 provided 150,000 preferential shares had been allotted to the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development for an amount of 207.13 billion. This implied that prior allotment and purchase of shares was done before parliamentary approval. Further, the failure to follow proper processes by the entity undermined the controls in place and may lead to legal disputes in the future. Right Honourable Speaker, the thing is, we can easily lose that money in Roco because somebody can go to court on the basis of this buying of shares before parliamentary approval and question its authenticity. and we're on the verge of doing that. Committee observed that the process of purchase of shares and subsequent binding government was completed before approval of Parliament and contravenes Section 21, 22, subsection 2 of the Public Finance Management Act. There was an overpayment which I've received, and instead of that, there was no due diligence by the Minister of Finance while paying Roco, hence an overpayment mentioned above. Government lacks policy guidelines to guide bailout and government investment in private entities. Right Honorable Speaker, this is a cry of every committee of Parliament for this to happen, a criteria, a guidance on how to bail out. The committee recommends that the PSST should be held responsible in accordance with Section 77 of the Public Finance Management Act. The PSST should review the transaction to mitigate any legal risk that may arise to safeguard public funds. The government should speed up formulation of guidelines on bailouts and government investment. The PSST and Attorney General should have excess funds recovered or more shares acquired equivalent to the overpayment. Review of investment in MS Biopharma Limited of 723.4 billion. Auditor General noted that in April 2024, Parliament approved a supplementary budget of 1.106 trillion, out of which 578.4 billion was meant to support a private company, MS Biopharma Limited, to meet its debt obligation and operational requirements. The payment followed the government initial investment in the company of 70 billion, which had been appropriated in the budget of the previous financial year, and 75 billion was further added in December 2023. Cumulatively, the government has so far invested 723.4 billion as of financial support. The Auditor General reviewed the investment and observed: 1, there was no valuation report to establish the net worth of the company in which government was investing, and as such, audit could not confirm whether government received shares worth the value. That is the Auditor General's report. 2, Auditor General was not provided with the shareholders agreement of the company, of the government investment in the company. Government has yet to receive the share certificates of the company. Right on of the company. Observation. Committee observed that it defeats investment logic for government to invest over 723.4 billion to a company valued at 2 billion only, to get a minority shareholding of only 9.4%. Later on in the interaction with the committee, we discovered that the net worth of the company was only 2 billion. Then you, government of Uganda, generous as you are, you invest 723.4 billion in a company worth 2 billion, and you get a shareholding of 9.4. Not anywhere in any logic of finance does that work. There was no due diligence and feasibility study done by Minister of Finance to guide government decision to invest in the company. It is no longer government. It is no wonder government invested that amount of money in a company valued at 2 billion. The accounting officer flouted Section 37, subsection 1C of the Audit Act by denying the Auditor General information. Recommendation. The accounting officer should be held liable for flouting Section 37(1)(c) of the National Audit Act. The PSST should engage the Attorney General and the company to ensure that the purchase agreement and the share certificates are submitted to the ministry to mitigate any legal risk that may arise. Right Honorable Speaker, These recommendations of the committee I was not noted are the same recommendations of the Auditor General. Treasury operations. So I'm done with the consolidated accounts. Treasury operations, budget performance. Treasury operation had a revised budget of 22.62 trillion in the financial year under review, out of which 20.579 was warranted and 16.823 trillion was spent as illustrated in the table below. There is a table that establishes that trend. Right, Honorable Speaker, we note, because later on these are fundamental issues, that treasury operation had a budget of 22. Because we are going to tackle this time, we've tackled an animal called bond switch and its impact on the economy. No. This is another report of treasury operations for the financial, out of which was warranted and 16 was spent as illustrated. That means treasury operation could not also spend all the monies that was being warranted to it. Analysis of the performance of the total funds warranted indicate that treasury operations suffered a 10.7% release variance. Out of the revised budget of 22 that had been appropriated, 20 was warranted, resulting in unwarranted budget of 2.04 trillion. Right, Honorable Speaker, for treasury operation not to warrant money that is budgeted for, that is the statutory obligation, immediately means you are incurring a payable. That's why you are having those payables going up. Further analysis of the warrant funds indicate that the entity was not able to utilize funds to a tune of 3.756 trillion, representing 18.48% of the warranted funds. These unutilized funds mainly affected the following. I'll put the areas. Right, Honorable Speaker, this is very critical. You see this treasury operation does not spend 3.75 trillion of the monies that is warranted to it, but later on, you'll see what they do. Continued increase in payable. The Auditor General reviewed the statement of finance position and it disclosed under 2027 that under note 27 and noted a significant increase in payables from 6.144 trillion in the year 2022 to 9.24 trillion by end of the financial year 2023, an increment of 50%. Further analysis, that means that, Honorable Speaker, Bank of Uganda was paying for
in the year 2022-2023, it is a financial year. We're talking about financial year. 2022-2023, it was 9.240 trillion. Yes. And then by the end of the financial year 2023-2024,
it was 9.42.
Yes.
Yes.
So it is a financial year.
Yeah, it is financial year, but the money is 9.42, 6.42. Right, Honorable Speaker. Further analysis revealed that in the year of audit, new payables stood at 4.950 trillion compared to only 2.692 paid during the financial year. So this is compounded the problem. They accumulated another payable of 4.9, then only we are able to pay 2.69 trillion. The above scenario implies that the rate at which government contracts domestic area is much higher than the rate of payment, leading to the continued accumulation of domestic area. It is also a failure to comply with the budget commitment control guidelines. Failure to fund invoices at the close of financial year under treasury operations worth 8.313 trillion. According to section 10.10.17 of the Treasury Instructions to 2017, an accounting officer will ensure that no payments due in a financial year remain unpaid at the end of that financial year. Towards the close of each financial year, the head of finance and accounts function will take steps to obtain bills from any person to whom money may be due and submit payment vouchers for them to the appropriate accounting officer for payment. From the analysis of the budget performance at the close of the financial year under review, I noted that a total of 8.13 trillion worth of invoices remained unpaid by the close of a financial year. Under the circumstances, there is an accumulation of unpaid obligation with BOU that attract interest charges to government, which could be avoided with an effective budget execution policy and therefore budget discipline. Further analysis of the Auditor General revealed.
Procedure matter.
Madam Speaker, we are 529 MPs. In the chambers right now, we are 24. The chair of the committee and the vice, you can discount them. You can also discount UPDF. The president said they are listening post. So which means we are 20. That's what the president said. So procedure issue I am raising for your guidance.
The presence of the UPDF is by the law.
Yeah, I recognize it. I was only reminding them that their commander-in-chief said they are listening post. They are not full.
When did he say that?
Not even once, twice.
A problem you like hearsay. Mm-hmm.
Madam Speaker, if you allow me, I'll bring you.
What is the procedure matter?
The procedure issue I am raising, because this is a very important report. Whether either the chair summarizes for the few who are remaining here, because when they leave it, then he will be presenting to an empty chamber. Or, Madam Speaker, you postpone and we start Parliament tomorrow at 10 when colleagues are here.
Chair is actually making summaries. So let's continue with the report.
You know, the other day, Honorable Semuju was on TV complaining that there are so many people looking for votes, but after winning, they will not be in the chamber.
So you cannot continue waiting for people who will not be in the chamber.
No, I mean that members of parliament go out and seek for mandate to represent people.
Yes.
Okay, they campaign, they do all manner of stuff, only to come to parliament and they are not there.
Exactly, and I've complained several times that if you're not in the house, you're not in the constituency. So where are you? Yes.
So.
And that's why the voters are very wise.
So, Right Honourable Speaker, I'll speed up. Parliament, the committee observed that in the financial year ended, government...
So you make a summary.
Yeah. For example, the penalties for these unpaid invoices was 250 billion, which government paid. Supplementary expenditure. Audit revealed that supplementary funding extended to the vote 130 and noted that a supplementary funding mounting to 3.67 trillion had been uploaded on the infamous for spending under the vote below, and that there is a table below. Unwarranted supplementary funding appropriated. Analysis of the big file extracted from infamous indicated that a total of supplementary funding amounting to 2 trillion was loaded on the system awaiting warrant of funds to enable expenditure. However, it was observed that warranting did not occur, hence funds were not available for expenditure. Public debt. I think we've talked about this one, the whole of today. Yes. The figure is known. I don't need I will be over-repeating. And they were not contradictory. And the category of public debt, members, you would read. Trend in public debt, members, you read. Costs associated with the bond switch. Right Honourable Speaker, here I will spend a minute or so. And a country requires a good explanation. Honourable Speaker, we rightly said We provided a budget of 22, and warranted was 20. Now, audit observed that among other challenges, the Treasury was facing cash flow constraints during the year. The Treasury requested the Bank of Uganda to switch bonds totaling to 684.01 billion during the period under review, which resulted in accumulation of accrued interest totaling to 1,54670 billion by maturity of those instruments. The table below shows. Right Honorable Speaker, I know for those who are not highly initiated in finance and economics, this may be a bit usual. Right Honorable Speaker, this is what it is. Let me explain. We give them money for debt redemption, that when these bonds mature, okay, please pay. Now what they do, in the middle there, when Honorable Mara's debt matures, they don't, this is not even a borrowing. They go to Honorable Mara and tell them, Honorable Mara, your bond has matured. Instead of you having, let's give you 2 or 3 or 20 more years. And the interest, annual interest to those bonds, just annual, is annual interest, the total was not put here. Annual interest to those bonds and what comes through, by the time they pay interest, the interest paid, there is no money that has gone to government. Omar a long time ago let government borrow whatever. His debt has matured, he doesn't pay. He says, I can give it to you on a more 3-year bond, 20, even a 20 bond, the table here shows.
Financial engineering.
Financial engineering. But the question is, we have given them money under treasury operations to pay. And the Auditor General says there could be an element of diversion of funds through this bond. Now, the committee lacked the time to interrogate the diversion aspect of funds. And that's why you requested some time back for forensic audit, especially on bond switches, because it's so lucrative a deal. I've looked here. Somebody pays government. I've looked, if you look here, on the same day, government goes back and comes back in the evening. You can't believe. In the morning, they go and borrow from somewhere. In the evening, they also go back. We don't have enough. You can't run a government like that. Is that bad? So, Right Honorable Speaker, this bond switch, which causes, and they've done another one, which may be in the next year's audit, where they've now paid a bond to Bank of Uganda to settle that huge debt. I've looked at the figure. No, I've looked at the figure. It's going to be 13 trillion. By the end, they settle the instrument. Out of instead of 8, it's going to be 13 trillion. And this is paid in 20 years. So many of us will not be in this space. But our children will grapple with this kind of encumbrances. And when they are calculating the national debt, these figures are not included. That's why our figures of national debt are hugely misleading. These are not regarded as national debt, yet you have incurred a debt. They are done without parliamentary approval. But if these bond switches were to come to your office and to a committee that you want to bond switch, we would look at the impact. But they do it through a statutory revision, which is illegal. They have no powers whatsoever. That's, Honorable Speaker, it is your powers that they are taking away. Right, Honorable Speaker, I'll go to something called, because I'm now summarizing, I'll go to what they call bond placement. Now, this placement of bonds, every year these people, the Minister of Finance should have a calendar on days on which they will float bonds. Now what they do, in the middle there, no, they simply go bond placement. They simply look for who to buy money from, to give them money from. They go soliciting, Madam Speaker, do you have 1 billion? Do you have, and the interest here now vary. You'll find a bond that was at 6%, 10%, it is at 13%. And it's one officer negotiating with the guy with the money. So, and when you look at the amount of money that was switched during the year, it is the 3,362 was done through bond placement. And the interests are mind-boggling. A total of 1.3 was borrowed from the domestic market using this. The net impact, you are going to pay over 2 trillion. This is not good financial engineering. And this is borrowing, Right Honorable Speaker, without approval of Parliament. Debt to GDP level and debt sustainability, we've talked about it. I'll leave that. Assessment of fiscal discipline to GDP, I'll leave that, Right Honorable Speaker. May I now go, Right Honorable Speaker, to what we tackled, I've done with the treasury operation. Those were silent issues in the treasury operations. Right Honorable Speaker, let me go to something called now projects. I have a whole report, special report on projects, which I would beg members to peruse, because most of these...
Honorable members, much as is giving us a summary, kindly get time and read these reports.
Right Honorable Speaker and honorable members, during the financial under review, an overall budget of 61.6 trillion, out of which 11 trillion was allocated for implementation of various projects by different votes. Here, that's what we are talking about. In the scheme of things, where you had a budget of 61, 11 trillion of this money was in projects. That's how big it is. Why project? And Right Honorable Speaker, it is for the first time, and I must thank members, that a committee of PAC has found time and space to look at audit reports of projects. And we just did a sample, because an institution like Makerere University has got 61 projects. National, Ministry of Water, 28. Ministry of Finance has so many projects. So the projects are so many, we've just done a sample to give us what it is in a project. Committee appreciated the fact that, let me leave that. However, be as it may, the committee observed that the project implementation had faced a lot of challenges, which had led to a lot of, the figures I've left that are important. We had 11 trillion under projects. Out of the 11 trillion allocated for the project, 7.9 was through borrowed money, through loans. Right Honorable Speaker, another 3.09 trillion was from grants, just money given to Uganda. And I will explain to you, money given to Uganda in the financial year, 3 trillion, how much are we able to use? Money given, not even borrowed. The committee However, be as it may, the committee observed that project implementation had faced a lot of challenges, which had led to a lot of wastage and abuse in their implementation. This is because of poor conceptualization, poor planning, misalignment of priorities in the project component, and as a result, many projects are behind schedule, which almost double the initial overhead costs. The committee identified the following challenges in the project implementation by government. 1, undispatched loan funds and grants. 2, misaligned priorities in the project component. Exorbitant costs per unit. High costs of consultancy fees. High commitment fees on debt servicing. Incomplete projects despite receiving and utilizing all project funds, and foreign exchange loss, among others. Let me go to undispatched loans and grants. Right Honorable Speaker and members, the Auditor General reported that government secured loans and grants from government partners worth 7.9, almost 8 trillion, of which 3.9 respectively was for for grant. However, only, and I'm saying, Honorable Nani, can you listen? Honorable Omara, this will interest you. However, only out of the 11 trillion, only 3.48% of the loan money was spent. And on the grant money of 3 trillion, only 788 billion, 25% of the grant had been drawn to support specific projects. How do we fail to utilize grants? And we are averaging 26% on grant. Money given to us free of charge. 3 trillion, you only use this, and you are here saying we borrow. Leaving a huge undispatched loan of 4.143 trillion and a grant of 2.29 trillion lying idle in the Bank of Uganda. Loans. The Auditor General in the Consolidated Report account sampled and analyzed 17 government loans extracted from the debt management and financial analysis system from June 2022 to December 2024 and noted an obnoxious low disbursement performance of different loans as shown in the table below. I've put a table here for the 17. This table, Right Honorable Speaker, was put by the Auditor General. For me to say I've put is the wrong thing. I've just extracted it from the Auditor General report. That tells you, for example, Mbarara Masaka transition line had a loan amount of $35 million. Only $122,000 had been utilized, which is 0.03%. Look at Kampala City Road area, Agagoguru transmission line. There was a loan of 40 billion. These are euros. These monies are in euros, so it's huge amount of money. They are 40 million euros. And dispatched is 18. Dispatch is 18. Undispatched 21. Kampala City Roads Rehabilitation, a loan amount of 224. And undispatched stood at 58. No, dispatched stood at 58, 169 and dispatched. And you can go on and on and on, project per project to 16. The committee observed that most of the loans will not be absorbed by the end of their tenure. For example, Mbarara Masaka had performed at only 3%. Luwero Butalenga Road had performed at 23%. Butalangwa Road had performed at 23%. And I sympathize, let me this time, Right Honourable Speaker, sympathize with the President. You find him on State of Nations reading roads. These ones are done. These ones are going to be done. These ones are going to be done. Wapi? Money will be borrowed, remains on account, some on grant are not being done. And you are busy on a budgeted day, reading all kinds of roads, power lines, water, for money that will not be dispatched. And my sympathy goes to the old man. So I've put here a number of loans. Generally, the committee observed the average undispatched loan performance stands at 37%. This is far below average, indicating significant underperformance in project deliverables, and yet those undispatched loans continue to attract commitment charges, which increase the cost of debt servicing. Review of the Auditor General's report by the committee revealed an increase in undispatched funds of 1.90 trillion at the end of June 2024 from 14.6 in the financial year to 16 trillion 0.49 of the money which, Honourable Speaker, you here defy all odds to ensure you pass to these government officers. 16 trillion of this money remain undispatched out there. For you've done your part, you've cleared them, go implement, But every day this parliament is like an approval of loans for which you can't feed an animal that cannot consume the food we feed it. That's why, Right Honorable Speaker, you should at least now be cautious on placing those questions. Because, because they have no capacity, absorption capacity, representing 22% increment. But also, Right Honorable Speaker, commitment fees.
Honorable Minister of Finance, Honorable Minister, maybe that would require us to seek for a report from you on monies that have been borrowed, how much is utilized, how much is outstanding.
But Right Honorable Speaker,
we would really need a day to discuss that. Because, for instance, if you're looking at a climate smart, we've allowed you to borrow to a tune of 325, and you have only used the 26 billion. That is worrying. We need to look at that seriously. Because remember, that's why I asked the question, how much interest are we paying? And we are paying interest on what? On what is disbursed or on what is approved? And indeed, we are paying on what is approved. We're even paying interest on what we are not using. So we'll need to look at that. We'll need a day to look at that.
Madam Speaker, the law already compels me to bring this report to Parliament periodically.
Which you brought the other day.
Which I brought the other day.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. We need to interest ourselves.
Yes.
You not as a minister, this time as a member of Parliament, concerned about your people. Yes. Yes. Let's get a day and look at all those loans. Maybe it will help these institutions to help to spend the money. Yes.
Right Honorable Speaker, you're right about that. And listening to the Chair of Public Accounts Committee, I know he's summarizing the report, but he's also debating it. We get tempted to believe that he's very passionate that if you are looking the other side, he will summon you to be at, he would take your role. I would love to hear some of the recommendations, strict recommendations, because issues of loan, even on this side, I don't speak for everyone, but we need to come out with something that, from the Public Accounts Committee, let's not just point out what the Auditor General, what can we do so that when we borrow, we get value for it? And that one, I've not gotten a copy of the report. I would be glad to support if you want to either propose amendments on what we borrow, that would be good. But realizing that it is government is a huge task to do.
Can you finish up with the report?
Yeah, Right Honorable Speaker, when we were in China, where you sent us on a benchmarking trip, the Chinese gave us, with the Auditor General, a critical objective of audit. Other than fault finding, the audit's major critical objective is to rectify and write things up and ensure that things are not done with impunity. And I want you to consume this from that paradigm. Honorable both. So, let me read the report. I can read the report, but I have a summary. If you want to read the report, I can go to this huge volume, sir. Read line by line.
Honorable Gwang, we are going to upload all the reports. They are already done, so give us your summary. And
okay, let me give you the summary now, if that's what you want. Commitment fees paid on these undispatched loans in the financial year under review, $73 billion. No, $73 billion Ugandan shillings. The committee observed that the total commitment fees was, let me give you another figure that will really throw you off balance. Let me take you to the another, now you are disorganizing me properly. Now when I look constructing incompetent companies, because you see, Honorable, you wanted us to say, during interaction with accounting, the committee established that the causes of undispatched funds were majorly due to, 1, failure to meet project milestones and timelines by implementing agencies. 2, contracting incompetent companies. Weak contract management and supervision by accounting officer. Variations in project scope from approved plans without approval from Government Development Committee. Commencing project without feasibility studies. Delayed acquisition of right-of-way by infrastructure projects. And poor conceptualization of projects, among others. During the rice project implementation by the Minister of Agriculture, Animal Industries and Fisheries in 2 districts of Bujiri and Bugweri, the Auditor General noted inadequate capacity of a contractor, and he has put a figure here. Inadequate capacity of a contractor. This was a contractor advanced 15 billion to do mobilization of equipment and blah blah. Now, this fellow, we have a list of the equipment he mobilized and their functionality. He mobilized equipment that are not even functional. But this is the contractor on a project.
Read the report.
I read the report. Okay, yeah, now I read the report. Yes. Under the rice project implemented by the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industries and Fisheries in 2 districts of Bujiri and Bugweri, the Auditor General noted that inadequate capacity of the contractor. The audit noted that the contractor was advanced 15.049 billion on 23rd February 2023 to enable the contractor mobilize sufficient equipment for execution of works. The funds were advanced as follows. The account is put there and wait. During the inspection, Auditor General compared the equipment that was required to mobilize on site as per the contract and what the contractor had mobilized and noted significant variances. The contract provided for mobilization of 47 units of equipment on site. However, at the time of inspection, only 15 units were mobilized, representing a mobilization level of only 32%. Audit found this inadequate. In addition, some of the equipment that had been mobilized to the site were non-functional, as indicated in the figure below. Bulldozer, he needed 3, he mobilized 2, function only 2 were functional out of the 3. Excavators, 0.11 bucket, something like that. There were 5, he mobilized 1, 20%, and that 1 mobilized was not functional. Motor grader, HB 140, there were 3, he mobilized 1, average mobilization. So I can go on and on and on this contractor. Audit inspection undertaken in August 2024, 12 months after receipt of the advancement, revealed that the physical progress was estimated at 4.8%. A number of primary activities had not been implemented by the contractor, as shown in the table below. These grants, the Auditor General reported that government entered into 10 grant agreements worth 127 million US dollars, that is worth 467 billion from different development partners. Audit sampled the 2 grants, which were fully funded and were meant to close on 30th June 2024. A combined grant of 2 projects as per agreement was $87.17 million, approximately 350 trillion. However, by the close of the financial year 2022-24, only $47 million, 160, had been absorbed by the two different projects. This meant that $40 million.42, an equivalent of 149 billion, remained undispatched by government of Uganda, even when the grant period had elapsed. The table 2, the two grants relate to the following projects illustrated in the table below. The committee observed that government had not honored its contractual obligations as per the grant agreement in some of the projects under USMED and UGIFT. For example, as part of its obligation, government was supposed to secure land titles for all government sites. However, this could not be done for all government sites. Failure by government to secure these land titles lead to under absorption of grant funds. Committee further observed that there were instances of slow execution of works by some contractor, and this further led to under absorption. There is a construction of aquaculture parks by Ministry of Works. But let me go to 2. Misalignment priorities in project components, which we have been talking about here. During interaction and consideration of the project accounts, the committee observed that the bulk of the project's funds had been allocated to trivial project components like administrative costs, consultancy fee, and allowances other than the core project components for which funds were thought. This misalignment of project priorities has continued to deprive government of desired impact and achievement of project objectives. For example, under Uganda Support for Municipal Infrastructure Development Project, USMED, out of a total project cost of $360 million, which is 1.29 trillion, $162 billion, 13%, was allocated to administration and coordination, leaving core project components such as municipal institutional support grants worth only 10 million as per the figures below. Under government growth opportunity and productive for women enterprise in Uganda, out of $10 million, 38.1 billion, and dispersed across 4 different projects during the financial year. Only 1.6 million was dispatched to support micro-enterprises for women groups, which is a core function and impacts directly on women compared to the 2.17, which is 8 billion dispatched to multiple purposes and production facilities component. The committee established that out of 2.17 million, 800 billion dispatched to multipurpose services and production facilities, a repetition. 557.2 million was spent for procurement of supervising consultant for construction works for the common user facility, which is more than what the women group gets on average. 576 million went for that purpose. Below shows project component allocation and expenditure for the year ended. I've put a figure below. Right Honorable Speaker, under the reducing climate change vulnerability of local communities in Uganda through ecosystem-based adaptation in wetland and forest in the Ministry of Water and Transport, 1.24 trillion had been allocated to increase knowledge and awareness of government officers and commitment. No, it is 1.44 billion had been allocated for increase of knowledge and awareness of government officers and communities at project intervention. The committee observed that the activity of increasing knowledge and awareness of committee officers had already been catered for under project management costs and monitoring and evaluation. This has left core project components such as improving technical and institutional capacity at local and national level to integrate EBA into existing management plans for wetland and forest, strengthened with only 512 million US dollars, which is 1.8 as illustrated below. Exorbitant costs per unit cost. Right Honorable Speaker, this one should concern all of us. During the committee interaction and examination of project reports, the committee established that some of the project costs were obnoxiously high. The Auditor General reported that under Usmed project, the cost of rehabilitating 1.37 kilometer road in Arua city mounted to 13.4 billion, with the supervision cost of 3 billion. That is, you are doing 1.37 kilometer of a road, municipal road, built as is, no compensation, costed 13.3 billion. The supervisor walked away with the 3 billion. While in Imbarara city, the cost of constructing 1 kilometer Bulemba Road mounted to 4.9 billion with the supervision of 249 billion. In Imbarara, you are achieving it at 4.9 billion. Supervision is 249 million. There, the other side, it is 3 billion. The cost here is 4.9. There it is 13. That's the unit cost. The detailed report is there. In Fort Portal City, the cost of constructing 2.68 kilometer road works mounted to 21.4 billion, with the supervision cost of 2.5. While in Mubende, the cost of constructing 2.869 kilometers mounted to 14.24 billion, with the supervision cost of 2.5 billion. These roads measure the same in terms of kilometer, and yet obnoxious differs in the cost of construction and supervision. Right Honorable Speaker. The committee noted that the Ministry of Works and Transport undertook a study to establish the unit cost rates, quantity estimates, regional comparison, and the development of software-based cost estimation and monitoring system. The report established that the average cost of upgrading a paved road with bitumen surface treatment ranged from 2.3 billion increased from 2.3 billion in 2017-18 to 3.13 in 2018-19. So that was the average cost of doing a bitumen road in an urban area. But here I took 24-13. You wonder if somebody else, and here, Right Honorable Speaker, these figures are approved by these committees of parliament. But who approves? From cabinet to parliament to all our committees, that if at my word was going to summon chairpersons of these committees and ask them, how do you on earth?
Unfortunately, you have no powers.
I have no powers. I was going to say, who gives you powers to really do this kind of thing? Going by estimates of Ministry of Works, by Ministry of Works and Transport, 13.3 cost of rehabilitating a 2-point road in Arua district would have constructed 4.32 kilometers at a cost of 3.1 billion, while the 21.4 billion cost of constructing a 2.86 kilometers for Fort Portal Road would have constructed 6.9 kilometers at a cost at the above cost. The committee therefore notes that these variations in cost overruns resulted into inflated road project costs and loss of public funds. Right Honorable Speaker, high consultancy and professional fees mounting to 770.98 billion was paid during the financial year. The committee observed that at the time of designing the project appraisal documents, project proposal, they factor in high costs of consultancy and professional fees. The committee observed that in the audit consolidated statements of financial performance, government paid a total of 770.98 billion as consultancy, professional fees across government ministries and MDs. For example, under the Resource Enhancement and Accountability Program, RIP, implemented by the Ministry of Finance, the project had a total budget of 72.8 during the financial year. Out of 62 was funded by government, while 12 billion was by development partners. Out of the 12.0 budgeted by development partners, 7.662 points was spent on consultancy fees alone, leaving a mere balance of 4.4 billion only for implementing other project components. Comparatively, out of the 60 billion received from government of Uganda, that is 20 billion was spent on staff salaries and related costs, leaving a balance of 39.3 billion to the project itself. The committee observed that this is an obnoxious amount to be spent just on salaries. The committee noted that, Right Honorable Speaker, that's what the committee notes. The committee recommendations are there for all to read. Right Honorable Speaker, Right Honorable Speaker, that sums up the presentation of projects, units, and one of our recommendations that projects be rationalized under APEX to go into the main ministries, other than the so-called consultants. What hurts, Right Honorable Speaker, irrespective of the huge fees, no single project in Uganda is on schedule. Every single project is on. Then we also noted something small which I want with. You find one project officer controlling trillions of shillings in 3 different projects. Multitasking. And is in the and some of these officers are in the Ministry of Finance. We find one under private sector coordinating 3 huge projects, one gentleman. And these things hurt the country. Right Honorable Speaker, for the second part of the audit on ministries.
Which one is the second part?
Yeah, ministries and universities and referrals. May I beg the Vice to do the needful.
I hope she's going to give a summary.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I thank the Chair for that brief presentation. Right Honorable Speaker, I want to appreciate you for the time you've allocated to the Committee on Public Accounts and also thank the members. I'm going to summarize, Right Honorable Speaker. This is the sector of justice, law and order. The Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, the Judiciary, Office of the Director of Public Prosecution, Directorate of Government Analytical Laboratory, Uganda Police, and Uganda Prisons. Right Honorable Speaker, I'm going to summarize. Honorable colleagues, I'm going to begin with the budgets for these sectors. Right Honorable Speaker, these entities received budgets as follows. The Office of the DPP received a budget of 92 billion and it received 99% of the budget. Right Honorable Speaker, all these received their budgets, close to 93%, save for the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs that got a shortfall of 10 billion. The Directorate of the DIGAL got a shortfall of 12.33 billion, and the Judiciary had a budget shortfall of 30 billion. Right Honorable Speaker, the accounting officer explained that these budget cuts were beyond their jurisdiction And this arose out of the Ministry of Finance failing to warrant all the budgets as appropriated. Right Honorable Speaker, this affects the implementation of the budget, and the committee notes that the accounting officer should ensure that statutory obligations and critical activities are given the first priority, and also the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development should allocate adequate resources and release it timely to facilitate provision of services to the intended beneficiaries. Honorable colleagues, when you get budget cuts, that means some of these activities will not be implemented. However, Right Honorable Speaker, much as we have budget cuts, but also the little that is warranted to some of these agencies, the monies are not utilized as shown under. Right Honorable Speaker, from, for example, if I can give the example of the Uganda Police Forces, they failed to utilize 175 billion. Then the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs did not utilize 4.7 billion. The GAL failed to utilize 2.3 billion, and the judiciary also didn't utilize 11.54 billion. Right Honorable Speaker, the committee observed that failure to optimally utilize warrants by accounting officer meant that planned activities were not implemented on time, and these inactions by accounting officers breach the PFMA, that is 43.3, and that means this leads to under-absorption of funds, and this distorts budgetary implementation that also denies beneficiaries of some of these projects the right to have services. Right Honorable Speaker, colleagues, you need to observe that much as budgets are not warranted as given, but also the warrants are not utilized by the entities, denying beneficiaries services. Right Honorable Speaker, from these 5 entities, I'm just going to pick a few areas of concern. For example, if we go to the Uganda, I'll begin with the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution, Right Honorable Speaker. Query number 1 is audit of the prosecution's case management information system. Honorable colleagues, there was a delayed rollout of this system, and a review of this second stage of the strategic plan showed that by the end of the previous plan, 30 offices were connected to this system, and there was a performance of only 21%. Right Honorable Speaker, this is in the interest of having automation of some of these systems to ensure that we simplify offer of services to the people that are served by these entities. So the delayed rollout of this system, Right Honorable Speaker, eventually the committee observed that while the Office of the DPP had made incremental progress in rolling out of the Proximus system, a 35 performance was below the average that was desired. So the performance was at 35%. And the committee noted that the Office of the DPP had delayed to seek for support from NITA Uganda to address the internet connectivity challenge, as was explained. And therefore, the accounting officer should budget for the funds to acquire the necessary support for infrastructure so as to accelerate and expand the rollout of the system to these other entities, 148 entities that are not connected. And number 2, the DPP should liaise with NITA Uganda to expedite internet connection to some of these offices that were not connected. Right Honorable Speaker, the other issue is about understaffing under the Office of the DPP. Honorable colleagues, the accounting officer reported that the Office of the DPP had various directorates and departments with a total approved establishment of 1,482 staff, but they only had 577 positions filled. So this means the office is very understaffed, and this automatically leads to delay in execution of their mandate. The committee recommends that to enhance access to justice, government through the Ministry of Finance should provide adequate wage budget to ensure the recruitment of critical staff by the Public Service Commission. Right Honorable Speaker, I will have just a few issues under the Uganda Police. The Uganda Police, we have a challenge of accumulation of areas. Accumulation of areas cuts across all these entities that we have mentioned, but special about the Uganda Police, they had an accumulation of areas up to a tune of 122.953 billion.
Is it 122 or
112.953 billion, Right Honorable Speaker. So we note that there is an obnoxious or abnormal increment in domestic arrears under the police, and the committee recommends that the accounting officer should be held liable because that led to diversion of funds in the Uganda police. Right Honorable Speaker, there is also implementation of implementation of the sub-county policing model. The sub-county policing model also faces several challenges where it was, the model was supposed to be piloted in 12 policing areas. However, most of them have not been rolled out because of challenges of staffing requirements, inadequate transport requirements to implement the model, structures required to implement the model, planned addition of more sub-counties onto the sub-county policing model, and therefore the committee observed that although ambitious in nature, the sub-county model policing was necessary as a countermeasure to rampant surge in crime. The committee further noted that the police had received only UGX 158.355 billion in as classified budget out of the 905.72 budget, which could be used in addressing these identified challenges. So there is there are budget challenges because the budget was 905 billion and they were only given 158 billion, Right Honorable Speaker, meaning there was insufficient funding for that area. Right Honorable Speaker, we are going to Uganda prisons. I'm picking out the areas that are very important. Congestion in prisons. Right Honorable Speaker, the Auditor General reported that the current prisons holding capacity was 21,126 prisoners, while the prisoner population as of June 2024 stood at 79,757, exceeding the holding capacity by 58,631 inmates. This resulted in an occupancy rate of 377.5%. Right Honorable Speaker, despite Uganda Police constructing additional prison wards, Uganda Police continues to grapple with overcrowding of prisons, with the highest congestion noted in Aswa 1, Kicheche, Buburo, Kakumiro, and Kigandalo prisons. Honorable colleagues, you can look at that table that shows excesses of inmates in prisons. Right Honorable Speaker, the prisoner population is growing at an average rate of 8%, while the prisoner accommodation is expanding only by 3.5% annually. So meaning there is a very big discrepancy between the prisoner population average and the accommodation expansion rate. Right Honorable Speaker, the committee recommends that government should provide more funding to support Uganda police efforts in constructing the accommodation space, and also as a sector of justice, law and order, we must enhance efficiency systems to hasten the administration of justice. This would free up space in prisons. Right Honorable Speaker, overstay on remand. Honorable colleagues, analysis of prisoners' statistics revealed that prisoners on remand make 48% of the total prisoner population. So this should be taken note of, Right Honorable Speaker. We have so many prisoners in prison and the ratio is simply too high. Honorable colleagues, take note of high ratio of custodial staff to prisoners. Right Honorable Speaker, the Auditor General noted that as of 30th June 2024, the staffing levels at Uganda prisons were at 14,145 staff against the approved structure of 42,724 staff, leaving 28,579 positions vacant. The number of custodial staff was at 11,576, serving a population of 79,757 prisoners, resulting in a high average custodial staff to prisoner ratio of 1:7 instead of the recommended ratio of 1:3. So meaning every staff of prison looks after 7 prisoners. But when you look at the table detailed down, for example, when it comes to Kampala, the prisoner to staff ratio is 1:17 in some areas. To some areas like Masaka, it's 1:12. Some areas like Masindi, it is 1 to 16. So, Right Honorable Speaker, meaning that the prison staff are overworked, Right Honorable Speaker. Long distances between prisons and courts, Honorable colleagues, you should note that the Auditor General noted that the long distances between prisons and court locations, with some prisons located more than 20 kilometers from the nearest courts that prisoners need to attend. This table shows, Right Honorable Speaker, the distances between prisons and the courts. So, honorable colleagues, as we read, we must pay attention to this sector of justice, law, and order. And, Right Honorable Speaker, there is also this challenge of operationalization of the prisoners' management information system. It also has a lot of challenges. Then, under budgeting for domestic arrears, Right Honorable Speaker, the Auditor General reviewed the approved estimates for the year and noted that Uganda shillings 9.7 billion was provided and released to settle domestic arrears. However, domestic arrears brought forward from the previous year were Uganda shillings 182 billion. So the arrears were 182.35 billion versus a budget that was provided of 9.7 billion. Right Honorable Speaker, causing a shortfall of 172 billion in arrears versus the budget that was provided, meaning there is a serious challenge of under-budgeting for domestic arrears. So the same entity faces challenges of accumulation of domestic arrears, Right Honorable Speaker. And the other area is inadequacy in disposing civil and criminal cases. Right Honorable Speaker, we still have a challenge of delay in disposal of civil and criminal cases. And the table shows the delays that there are in the sector of prisons. Right Honorable Speaker, the other issue is accumulation of bail fees. An analysis of refunds revealed that the percentage of bail refunds relative to the bail balance remains below 30%, with only 10% refunded in the financial year 2023-2024. To date, we have outstanding balance on bail funds of 24.291 billion, meaning those who pay bail fees do not get an opportunity to receive that money back. Right Honorable Speaker, the committee recommends that the accounting officer should consider restructuring the bail refund process through digitalization. This would reduce the long bureaucracy and other administrative delays to improve accessibility and ensure timely reconstitution of to litigation. Right Honorable Speaker, lastly is the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs. This one has long outstanding court awards and compensation, honorable colleagues. This is the only matter, among others, that is so important under the Ministry of Justice, where the Auditor General reviewed 71 human rights awards, court awards, ex gratia, and compensation ordered by courts, and reported that awards worth 1.98 billion remained unpaid for the period ranging from 2 years to over 10 years. So we have these ones pending, and the committee recommends that the accounting officer should budget for the awards and government should provide the requisite funds. And also the accounting officer, together with Uganda Human Rights Commission, should establish the details of the beneficiaries for quick settlement to avoid accumulation of interest. Right, Honorable Speaker, whenever you delay payment of these arrears, interest is paid on these arrears. And so far, government is going to pay Uganda shillings 159 billion as interest on these arrears that have not been paid on time. Right, Honorable Speaker, the other report is on the report of the Public Accounts Committee Central on specialized national regional referral hospitals and other specialized hospitals. Honorable colleagues, I'm going to summarize. Right, Honorable Speaker, we are looking at details of the following hospitals in summary. Right, Honorable Speaker, we are looking at the following: Masaka Regional Referral Hospital, Entebbe Regional Referral Hospital, Mbale, Naguru, Jinja, Mubende, Fort Portal, Mbarara Regional Referral Hospital, Kabale, Rira, Gulu, Moroto, Hoima, Arua, Butabika, Mulago, Kawempe, Chirudu, Soroti, and the Mulago Women's Specialized Hospital. Right, Honorable Speaker, implementation and budget performance. Honorable colleagues, for all the regional referral hospitals, we observed, I'll begin with implementation of the approved budget. Right, Honorable Speaker, regional referral hospitals are expected to collect NTR to support government budget. And honorable colleagues, the total NTR was supposed to be 20,406,000,000. And there was an overperformance of 21.924. However, this should be noted. From the table, government projected to collect the above, and 21 was collected, right, Honorable Speaker, meaning there was an overperformance. So, honorable colleagues, as a committee, we noted that government, in the offer of service to regional referral hospital, the committee noted that all accounting officers that did not meet their budgeted NTR targets, all failed to realize their NTR, contravened instructions 4.102 of the Treasury Operations. The committee noted that non-transfer of NTR to the Treasury deprives government of revenue, and also noted that the Ministry of Finance failed to provide revenue targets to some of these entities. That is why there was an overperformance and also underestimation of NTR by these entities. So accounting officers should ensure that, number one, should ensure that NTR targets are set based on the strong assumptions and benchmarks to enable realistic NTR. And also accounting officers should institute mechanisms to ensure that a billed NTR is fully collected. Minister of Finance should always make prompt responses to requests of NTR revisions by entities. The accounting officers should incorporate all NTR sources during the budgeting process. Honorable colleagues, performance of government of Uganda warrants. Right, Honorable Speaker, a total of 475 billion, 4.45 was budgeted for to be released to these referral hospitals and national specialized regional hospitals. However, a total of 470.65 was released. From the above table, government allocated a total budget as mentioned, and there was, out of which 470 was warranted, implying a shortfall of 4.77 billion. So all these entities in total did not receive 4.7 billion as releases. Right, Honorable Speaker, the committee appreciates government for releasing 100% for some of these referral hospitals, but also notes that these hospitals, some of these did not receive their budgets as shown above by the under release of 4.7 billion. Right, Honorable Speaker, utilization. Honorable colleagues, much as the whole budget is not warranted, but also referral hospitals failed to utilize the warrants as were given. And we had a variance of 41.76 billion as unutilized warrants, yet their services that they were supposed to render. Therefore, the committee observed generally that under absorption of funds does not only distort planning and budget implementation, but also denies services and other deserving beneficiaries. The committee takes note of the action of the accounting officers and the PSST, but should not in itself paralyze the implementation of these activities. The committee recommends that pursuant to Section 45 of the PFMA, the accounting officers should adhere to the annual budget performance contract signed with the PSST, which binds the accounting officers to deliver on the activities in the work plan of the vote for which they have budgeted for. Right, Honorable Speaker, I'm going to pull out a few areas of emphasis. Number one, management of medicines and health supplies. In all the entities, right, Honorable Speaker, in all these regional referrals and national referral hospitals, we had delays in delivery of drugs. That should be noted. Number two, we have challenges of expired drugs. And the committee recommends that the accounting officers should improve on inventory control by enforcing fast in, fast out, and timely reporting on short